Speed in the Rolex GT series isn't always a guarantee of success. Oh no! He's overshot it, Dirk Werner!
The 87 car just came in and spun on pit road.
His effort by TRG to finish 1-2 was a case of experience beats the stopwatch almost every time. And that is yet another different winner. Porsche locked out the podium and enjoyed its best race of the year. The Mazda was beaten up.
Left front very hard. I think the car is okay. I hope so.
The Pontiac ran out of puff.
Go.
Expect more gripping GT racing at sports cars equivalent to Bristol. Next, on Speed. For 50 years, Lime Rock Park has celebrated motor racing, and today that proud tradition continues as the Rolex Sports Car Series makes its one and only visit to Connecticut in 2007 for this GT-only race. It's round 6 of the championship. Welcome, everyone. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader with you, along with Brian Till and Chris Neville. We're very excited about this GT-only race as the cars roll. This has been a very gripping championship so far in 2007. It's nice and tight. There's been plenty of competitiveness and lots to talk about. And there's a big question mark on, can this be Pontiac's playground this weekend? Many believe it can be, but they have to get past the Porsches and Mazdas first, don't they? Look at that, a 12-point championship buffer for Sylvain Tremblay and Nick Ham over Dirk Werner, and then a further 5 points back. Pontiac's best in the championship so far, Paul Edwards and Kelly Collins. And then Bryce Miller, the next one in line, and De Quesada and Dumoulin, the Rolex 24 class winners in the top 5. Well, Lime Rock, it's an interesting little circuit. It's a bull ring. It's kind of the Bristol for sports cars, and someone who knows it very well is Dorsey Schrader. Dorse, talk us through.
Yeah, Lime Rock for sure is the bull ring. There's not much to it, just over 1.5 miles long, only 7 corners. Best passing opportunity is here, the brake zone in turn 1. If you can't get it done there, the next good opportunity can happen in here or in the areas right through here. But again, it's a very fast racetrack. It's sub 1 minute. Wolf Hensler, new track record at 53 seconds. It's going to be a fast, furious race.
All right, we're going to roll you through our various onboards. We say good afternoon to Calvin Fish. Cal, we said this is a bull ring. This is a tight circuit. It's conducive to good close racing. Is that going to happen today?
It is. There'll be plenty of side-by-side action, but the key for the drivers is you have to be patient here. If you have accidental contact, a little bit of body rub, a tire goes down, you make a trip down pit lane, it is going to cost you dearly.
All right, so you've seen Leighton Rees, you've seen Kelly Collins. This is Nick Ham. Always starts, he always qualifies and starts the number 70 Mazda, the RX-8, and we've also got a 4th on board for you today. It's the fast Farnbacher Lowes Porsche, and young Bryce Miller is on board. He will team again with the top 3 in points, Dirk Werner. This has been a very, very interesting weekend so far, and we're set for a great race. Brian, good afternoon. What do you have for us?
Hey, Lee, I checked in with Sylvain Tremblay. We talked to Nick Ham at Laguna Seca about having the points lead and whether they were going to be conservative with it. He said, yes, they had the worst finish they've had all year. Spoke to him here. They said, we're not doing that again. No more conservation mode. We're going for it with that little light Mazda. Checked in with Banner Racing. They are feeling the pressure. Pontiac needs a win in that Pontiac GXPR. They're going to do everything that they can get to get it. That's Mazda and Pontiac. Let's check in with Chris Neville for more.
Brian, once again, looking back at Laguna, Porsche did so well, but Taffel Racing, which was so dominant last year, had another tough weekend. That team has yet to win this year. Wolf Hensler coming back, did not race last weekend, but he's here this weekend. He's got the car on pole. They're thinking they're going to be able to break through, get that win. But when you look at last year, Hensler finished 3rd. The 2 cars that beat him, both Pontiacs.
We will keep an eye on it. It has been so close. The top 10 blanketed by just over a second. Hensler and Ham. And these are the 2 boys that got together at VIR on the inside. Drew Stavely, a big move in the Pontiac.
Got to really watch that corner. It's called Big Bend, and this is why. You're in this corner a long time. If you go side by side, you'll probably make contact.
On board Leighton Rees here. He's dropped position here in the early going. And 2 spots ahead of him, you see Kelly Collins in that other Pontiac.
You'll see the cars move around a lot here at Lime Rock Park. This is a very challenging and busy circuit for the boys. 22 GT cars on track, 6 more than a year ago. And it's the German Wolf Hensler for Tafel Racing who leads the way.
Calvin, you said at the beginning of the show, this is a racetrack that rewards patience. You have to really keep your wits about you, particularly when these guys catch up with the tail end of the pack and you start making lap moves. You have to really watch yourself in traffic here.
Well, that's the key, Dorsey. You really have to develop a rhythm here and really time your passes, because if you just get right up behind someone, you end up running at their same lap speed. You can't get by them. You've got to really utilize the performance edge that your car may have.
Look at Bryce Miller from 6th to 4th. 2 positions on the opening lap. We ride now with Kelly Collins.
Track known for being difficult to pass on. You'll see why right here. This is no-name straightaway, and it's not straight.
It isn't straight, and it's certainly not flat. It is very bumpy coming down this back straightaway. You think there's something wrong with the race car when you first go out, when you get to this racetrack, when you haven't been here in a while. But look at that Mazda, slipping and sliding, the lightweight Mazda. They said after practice they looked at their telemetry. The rear wheels were off the ground for 20 feet, cresting that hill, now into the downhill.
Has his hands full and look up ahead. Hensler is just eking away, isn't he? End of the second flying lap. Ham is under pressure. Kelly Collins on the inside into the brake zone. Can't quite do it this time round.
You have to be really committed alongside someone before you can make that pass. I think Kelly Collins was just probably, making his intention known. And the bumping and banging is already happening. We're hearing of incidental contact between cars out here. They're pretty free with penalties this weekend, Lee. I can tell you that after the race we've seen just before this.
Nick Ham's car does not look to be hooked up right now. I'm not sure if they started the car on a little bit lower tire pressure, and it'll take a few laps to come in, but he is slipping and sliding. Kelly Collins looking for a way by in these early laps.
Look at these Farnbacher Lowes Porsches. They got Leighton Reese either side. Massive weekend for Farnbacher Lowes. They're headquartered just 30 miles away in Danbury, and they've got some 300 guests here. This is their home race, their home track, and they're looking for a victory here today.
And what I said on the track map is that every corner on this racetrack, with the exception of one, is a right-hand corner. The uphill corner and the downhill corner load the left side of the car very, very heavily. It does a lot of damage to the tires. These Porsche drivers are going to have to watch that rear tire.
Brian, what have you got on the 74?
Well, Dorsey, you are spot on. I just spoke with Eric Locks. I said, are you guys worried about left rear tires on long green runs? He said, Brian, we're worried about rear tires in general. Even the right rear takes a beating around this racetrack with all the weight of the Porsche in the back. Rear tires, a big issue, guys.
Andrew Davis is towards the end of this train. There he is right there in the 72 Tafel machine. Here's the sister car, the race-leading car of Wolf Hensler, the Rembrandt Charms Porsche 911. Time round he had 1.5 seconds lead. It looks more than that now over Nick Ham. Chris, tell us more about Nick.
Well, I just checked in with the Speed Source team, and you guys were right. It is tire pressures, and since that car is so light, it takes a couple more laps than all the other cars out there for those pressures to come up. So right now the team's saying nothing wrong. They're just waiting a couple more laps, and hopefully Nick should have something for Wolf.
Wolf is certainly fast around here. Remember last year he qualified on the pole. The car got pushed to the back of the grid due to a technical infraction. I think it was front ride height that year. And he stormed through the field, got up to second. He and Robin Liddell ultimately finished third. So he loves this place. He's fast here. But you have to be patient. You have to be patient in traffic. You have to be patient with that setup as well, talking about tire pressures, Dorsey.
Absolutely, particularly on these first laps. Like talking about Nick Ham's car right there. This is a rough racetrack. I mean, it's very, very bumpy, and with the tire pressure low, you'd be slamming the chassis onto the asphalt pretty hard.
Nick Ham hasn't raced at Lime Rock Park since 1993, where he finished runner-up to the legend Hans Stuck in a Porsche Super Cup race. And he was very excited about returning here, particularly in the RX-8. You ride with third place Kelly Collins. Look at this on board with his teammate Leighton Reese. He's working on Bryce Miller. Inside, down into Big Bend. I think he's got him. Nice work, Leighton Reese.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. You have to be fully committed and get the car side by side in there, because that brake zone is very, very bumpy. If you start turning in and braking at the same time, you risk going straight on.
Nick Ham on that last lap ran the same lap time as the leader, Wolf Hensler. So Hensler certainly pulled the gap on the first couple of laps, but that is now settled down.
Masterful job in qualifying. Broke the 54-second barrier. Got the 53.9 for the new track record. That's fast around here.
It is really flying. This is an awesome racetrack, Dorsey. I know you've raced here a lot, but just so much momentum. But it's really fun when you get in traffic, just dealing with the traffic and the timing of it. You really kind of get into a rhythm.
You just can't get yourself trapped. And by that, what I mean is you can't get hung up behind a slower car on the back part of the circuit. You have to time your lifts and your brakes so that doesn't happen.
So it's Wolf Hensler, 1.5 seconds out in front. Here's the Racer's Edge Pontiac GXPR. Then it's Nick Ham, Kelly Collins, that's unchanged. Leighton Reese now up into the top 4 over Bryce Miller, Lee King, Drew Stavely in that Racer's Edge Pontiac. Then it's Andrew Davis, the second Taffel car. Emil Asentato, the second Speed Source Mazda. And Craig Stanton stays where he started. That's an interesting pairing, boys. In the Synergy Motorsport, that Porsche, Craig Stanton comes together with Pat Long in a one-off pairing.
I think they're going to be a factor here today. I mean, Pat Long is just really getting the job done this year. I spoke to him here yesterday, and he just said, I'm really a lot more focused. He's always been fast, but I think he's really just, utilizing all of his skills. He's really thinking about everything all the time, just totally dedicated to his sport. He's really upped his training to a whole new level. He is the real package.
One of the things that we've seen as this year has gone on is that the Porsches tend to run off that rear tire. The Mazda's the lightest car out there. It's pretty good on its tires, but so is the Pontiac. The Pontiac seems to wear front and rear tires kind of equally. So if we go long green flag racing without cautions to interrupt it, I think the Pontiac's going to move forward.
I think the exciting thing that is encouraging for the Grand American Road Racing Association, you've got a Porsche, a Mazda, and then you've got a Pontiac. Look at this. This is a good scrap here. Tom Nastasi is putting the pressure on Ian Boss big time.
And of course, Tom Nastasi just ran another race earlier today. He's already pretty much in the rhythm because you were talking about Calvin.
Yeah, and he had a problem right here. Got into it with another driver in the uphill section, but he's really come a long ways. He's a little bit wild in his early days, but he started to settle down. He's had 3 Coney Challenge wins this year. You don't keep putting it in victory lane unless you've got your act together.
Teamed again with Alex Tagliani. We missed Alex at the last round at Laguna Seca, but he is back, enjoys driving the Mustang, and this is a thrilling battle here. Nastasi looks at the inside on Boss. Does he go deep into brakes? Almost they touch.
That was close, very close indeed. Pretty heavy car, that Mustang, and right there, he has really got some good stick coming through that first corner, putting the pressure on Ian.
With a heavy car like that and on a racetrack like here at Lime Rock, you don't want to use the car up too much too soon. I mean, right now he's battling pretty hard, but if he can't make this pass, what he needs to do then is back away and let everything come back into grips again, because it will hurt the car's tires and brakes here if you run it hard all the time.
This has been an incredibly busy week for the Rolex GT competitors. Just a week ago, we're at Laguna Seca in California. They've had to come all the way across to the other side of the country. Some teams didn't even go back to their headquarters. Some made midway stops. Others, like Doncaster Racing, went all the way back north to Toronto and then came south to Lime Rock Park. And there is Alex Tagliani watching on. Has learned a lot about sedan and sports car racing.
I think that's really a testimony to how much Alex loves his racing. We're talking about a champ car driver here, a superstar, yet he wants to be here on a Monday, on a weekend off, running in the GT competition.
Looking on with a lot of interest. Your workload is yet to come, Alex. We look forward to seeing it at Hensler, almost 2 seconds out in front. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. By Ruby Tuesday, simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And powered by Pontiac and the 260 horsepower Solstice GXP. We are back at the front here at Lime Rock Park. This is Wolf Hensler for Taffel Racing, teamed with Eric Lux, who will step in after this stint.
And Wolf has already caught the tail end of the pack, so he's working traffic already.
It's Mike Pickett in the BMW that he's trying to get around, and the key is just not catching these people at the wrong part of the racetrack. Otherwise, it can cost you 3 or 4 seconds just like that. But he got through there cleanly. And now the problem is Nick Ham's.
Here, the engine wind up right there as the car comes completely off the ground. It's very hard on drive lines, drive shafts and so forth break if you don't time the lift off the throttle right.
Oh, that's tight. That cost him. Where is Kelly Collins? Is he close enough to take advantage?
All clear, Nick, all clear.
Here he comes. Jinking around.
That's the one thing, Calvin, you don't want to do is go side by side down that downhill. You get to the bottom and you have to lift substantially, and a guy behind you doesn't have to lift, is going to drive right by. And that's what Kelly Collins almost just got done.
Nick Ham there slid a little bit wide there as he tried to turn into the corner there, Dorsey. Definitely lost a little bit of ground, was not on line.
That's a good save. You go much beyond where he was, and the racetrack's so dirty, you tend to go right on off and into the wet grass there.
That wasn't the first time he's done that either, boys. He did that several laps ago as well and had to catch it. So Nick Ham is being forced to work incredibly hard in this opening stanza of this 163 lap, 2.5 hour maximum time limit race. And look at Kelly Collins, just continues to haunt the Mazda driver.
There's a lot of guesswork here as well in setup. We just got off a 2 hour 30-minute Coney Challenge race, and these guys are having to deal with probably a different racetrack, different race conditions than they may have anticipated. So maybe the 70 machine just got a little bit wrong in this early going.
Leighton Reese still maintains fourth. There's the 87 of Bryce Miller, then Lee Keane, and then the 30 Racers Edge Pontiac of Drew Stavely. Chris, what do you have?
Well, Lee, when you look at it on the racetrack, it looks like the Farnbacher Lowell's Porsches are dropping almost a full straightaway behind the leader right now. I checked in with that team. They said nothing is wrong with those cars. They've just seen a lot of rear tire wear over the course of the weekend, so that's definitely showing them some concern. So they're just telling their drivers, let's be conservative right now. We need to make sure that you have something to race with later on. Brian?
Well, Chris, I checked in with John Meraki with Racers Edge Motorsports. Drew Stavely pedaling that Pontiac GXPR, the number 30 right now in 6th. And Calvin was right on the money a moment ago when he said this is a very different racetrack. John was saying he's so impressed with Drew. Without a lot of experience, he's still nice and calm in the car. He called in and said the balance just isn't right. It's not the same car that they had on Saturday. He's made some adjustments with the bar, and right now that Pontiac seems to be becoming good. He's just gotten past the 85 down the front straightaway, guys.
And that was a bold move through diving turn. Great stuff from the 21-year-old Californian. Steps out of plenty of experience in the Mazda Miata and MX-5 Cup Series, and comes in here to a very different car, a very different machine, Dorsey. He's really showing his hand quite well.
He did a really smart thing when he made that pass, and what he did was he allowed those cars to go down the downhill. He positioned himself away from them, backed off of them, and then made the run onto the straightaway without having to do the lift that they did. Moved himself to the inside, just drove right by him.
And a big transition, Cal, from a car like a Mazda Miata to this monster.
It's huge, and to come in like he did at Laguna with a 5th place finish on his debut with the team really speaks volumes for the talent that he has. So, and right now he's mixing it up with the big boys. When you're running as the meat in the sandwich of the Farnbacher Porsches, that means you're doing a great job.
That Pontiac looks really good on the downhill. That's a very, very rough corner. And we've known all along that these Pontiacs are really good. They've got a lot of suspension travel, and they really do well on these bumpy circuits like this. It's got a lot of grip.
Got to hand it to this team too. They're really learning the ropes quickly in this form of racing. Spent most of the years in the Star Mazda Championship with single-seater cars. That's a big transition too, not only for the drivers but the team as well, to get the best out of these chassis.
In that Star Mazda series ran drivers like Guy Cosmo. They very much enjoyed their time in that series. Small Florida-based team. Let's go to pit lane and talk with someone who else drives a big monster in this GT series.
Lee, you guys were talking about Alex Tagliani. Here he is, the man himself right now. Tom Nastasi out there. You guys looking for your first top 10. But is this racetrack really suited to the Mustang?
Well, it's a pretty small track. I mean, our car is quite heavy, and it's really difficult on the brakes. But so far, I think Tom is doing a pretty good job. Team prepared a good car. It seems like the lap time are coming towards us. Guys in the front are slowing down. Tom is consistent, so hopefully we can finish in the top 10 today.
You talk about saving brakes. Everybody knows you've got to use them. You've got to slow down for turn 1 for sure. But how do you save them and still use them hard enough to be competitive?
Well, you try to press on the brakes really hard and then release it and try to let the car roll to a certain speed. You need a good car to do that. That's how you can save brakes.
That's what they're trying to do, guys. They need to have enough car at the end, so when Tagliani gets in it, he can try to rocket that thing to a top 10.
And that's what really gets that brake temperature up, Dorsey, is when you're on the brakes for a long period of time, what Alex is talking about, being on them short, hard stab, but then release the brake pressure. If you stay long braking zone, that's when the brake temperature really balloons up.
And there's 3 places, Calvin, that you have to do that. You know, turn 1 for sure is the hardest braking area of all of them, but then you also have to brake quite hard for the uphill corner and for West Bend at the top of the hill. But if you brush that brake lightly, like you're talking about doing, and then release it, let the car roll into the corner, it takes all that heat away.
Race leader Wolf Hensler is almost 2.5 seconds out in front of Nick Ham right now, while Kelly Collins stays glued to the back of him and Nastasi stays glued to the back of Ian Boss. We go back up front. This is Kelly Collins, the Pontiac GXPR. Do you want to take a ride? Let's have a listen. A full lap on board with Kelly Collins around Lime Rock. Doesn't take long, does it?
Watch Nick Ham there in the Mazda, but he gets held up. If he gets held up and he breaks the momentum of that car, the Pontiac will have the advantage. With its torque, it will be able to get back up to speed quicker. Both of them got by cleanly there.
Nick looks pretty loose, though. You see him really sideways off a lot of these corners, Dorsey, and it's a narrower tyre on that Mazda compared with some of the other cars in the field here today. I just got a feeling they may have missed a little bit on the setup, but maybe something that Nick can relate to the team. They can make a tyre pressure adjustment for when Sylvain gets the car, and certainly there's some adjustments he can make inside the car as well right now.
Well, you're right about one thing. That car looks really nervous. You watch it in the brake zones, and the thing starts moving around and dancing, something you don't want to see.
Time to squeeze in a quick break. We'll come back with plenty more from Lime Rock right after this. There is only one episode left. It is set up. It's the season finale this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Find out who is $100,000 richer and headed towards the opportunity of a lifetime. It's set up. The final episode, the final 4, and Drew Stavely, who's in this race, is one of those finalists. Good crowd sitting on the hill. In fact, they've been here all weekend. Of course, you never race on a Sunday at Lime Rock Park, but there was a great crowd here on Saturday, and the weather has been pretty kind to us. Welcome back, everyone. Let's go right to the pits. Here's Chris.
Paul, we talked to your team owner late in the race earlier about the pressure to perform this weekend. Everybody's saying that this is Pontiac's track. You're the one who's really going to back cleanup later today. How are you dealing with the pressure?
You know, it's nice to see both Leighton and Kelly are running really strong out there, so it makes me feel better about getting in the car. You know, there's nobody really pulling a gap from us right now, so it's going to come down to some good pit stops by the team, which we have probably the best team out there to give us a good pit stop. So it's looking real good. The tires are holding up. Kelly's getting held up a bit by the Mazda, but, you know, I love the balance of the car in warm-up this morning, so I don't think there's any reason why we can't be strong.
Is Kelly feeling like he needs to get around that Mazda to put some pressure on Hensler?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Hensler's a little bit of a gap, but, you know, Kelly's keeping the pressure on the Mazda right now. I just hope Nick makes a mistake.
Well, Pontiac was good last year.
Well, Kelly Collins went up into second just before this. Andrew Davis is off the circuit, and for the second time in a week, he has crashed the 72 North-South Porsche. Uncharacteristic for Andrew Davis, I must say, and that's heading through West Bend on the exit of West Bend. Very fast and precarious position that he is in.
Very dangerous part of the racetrack to be sitting in. And seldom do you ever see a car spin there, Calvin, without making contact with that wall.
There's a little bit of tyre rub on the front there, but he may have got away with one. We see all the dust there on the exit of the corner for the other drivers to get through. So Andrew obviously had a big moment, but right now we're seeing a change of positions up at the front of the pack.
Well, we certainly saw this position change earlier on because Nick Ham got loose, almost slid off the racetrack. Kelly got by. However, However, now it swoops back around again.
No,
it's late.
This is
This is
late.
Leighton Reese.
He's in danger again, Dorse, of losing another position.
And there's Keldog up in front. You're right. He's checking out up in front there. Nick almost slid off the racetrack. He had a real big moment up on top of West Bend up there. Same place we see Andrew Davis right now. And he almost went off. Had to get off the throttle and lost that lead.
We've been thinking that the car looks like it's not balanced, but Chris Neville reported to us during the break that the team said that Nick was loving life. So obviously a different look from behind the wheel.
He's not loving as much this lap as he was a couple ago.
Let's revisit one of our earlier storylines. Is this going to be Pontiac's playground? What do you make of it so far?
But I think the longer we go green, the more it's going to play in the Pontiac's hand.
All right, let's get down here. Here's Brian.
Andrew Davis has come to pit road. Nathan Schwartzbaugh taking over. There's damage to the front of the car and damage to the left rear. Crew members right now on the left rear checking the shocks and the suspension and also checking the tires. I don't know if Andrew felt like he had a flat or if something went wrong in the back, but anyway you want to look at it, he ended up in the fence. So right now he's trying to help Nathan Schwartzbaugh in the car. The Taupo Racing crew members really looking over the back end of this Porsche.
We've got some replays for you. Let's go to those right now and take a look, see if we can work out what happened to Andrew Davis. Now this is onboard Kelly Collins.
Wow, that looks like oil to me. That was Nick Ham. That was the slide I saw before.
Yeah, that was the change of position for second. There we are on board with Nick Ham, and that's Kelly just blowing by him.
That was a good save, but the way that car broke loose, it almost looked like it hit oil.
Maybe there is something down, because Andrew Davis had a similar problem in the same corner, so you might be right, Dorsey. Some fluid there. Maybe if you get in a little bit deep, run a little bit wide, you start getting into that.
Now this is RJ Valentine in. These are the guys who won a week ago in Laguna Seca. RJ is out, and Andy Lally set to climb aboard, Chris.
Yeah, Lee, this car just went down a lap, so they decided let's bring RJ in. They were kind of hoping for the caution to come out, which it hasn't yet, so Andy Lally getting behind the wheel. Now, not only have they gone down one lap, but most likely with this pit stop, they're going to go down a second lap, but they are getting that mandatory pit stop done, and then they're just going to have to hope later in this race they can make up one lap and then maybe get that lucky dog award.
Well, they're going to have a lot of work to do. Essentially, when you come down pit lane, Dorsey, and take a full fuel load, you're going to lose about a minute 20 total time, and that's about a lap and a half. So unless you're right on the leader's tail, you're going to go down 2 laps.
And he's already down 1, so that's not good.
They pulled off some magic last week. Let's see what they can do this week at Lime Rock. Brian.
Andrew Davis just climbed out of the car. Andrew, you're making your mandatory pit stop in the first 45 minutes, not the way you wanted to. What happened on the racetrack?
Definitely not how we wanted to stop, Brian. I was turning into West Bend. I mean, we were in a good spot, just kind of hanging out. It's really hard to pass here. And I was in the spot where I wanted to be, just driving along, and when I turned into West Bend, I just got a big oversteer. I tried to save it, it straightened back up and just snapped again, so it sounds like I don't know what happened, if it was a tire or what, but something in the left rear. And I tried to keep it off the wall, but it bounced off of it. We're back underway now. We'll see if we can make this happen.
Well, Dorsey, it sounds like what you were talking about, perhaps some oil or debris, something up on the racetrack caused the 72 to spin.
Well, it certainly looked like Nick Ham's case. When that car went in there, it just broke free all at once, and it was the same corner, so I think maybe somebody got some oil or something up there.
There we see Nathan Schwartzbaugh behind the wheel in the North-South car, so he'll be disappointed. There's nothing worse when you get pumped up for one of these big races and suddenly you get into the car for the first time and you're a couple of laps down.
And that's where it's important to keep your cool, because you know you'll burn the car down trying to get those things back. You're going to have a little help.
It's a good scrap that's going on here. The 87 of Bryce Miller is holding off Drew Stavely. Some other positional moves. Craig Stanton has come from 10th up to 8th, and Tom Nastasi did get by Ian Boss to break into the top 10.
Now, Calvin, you talked about it before. What happens when you get in a freight train of cars like this right here is that all of the cars end up going exactly the same speed. You can't make any advantage on anyone. What you need to do is back off about a car length or 2 and make the car get a big run. Try to time that pass on the front straightaway.
The other thing is here, coming down the hill, you're going to have a little bit of aerodynamic effect when you're really close behind someone. So you want to just try and get a nice run so it doesn't affect that and doesn't affect your exit speed on this front straightaway. But it's a real kind of small window to hit to get that done correctly.
Here we go, inside move, Stavely on Miller. Not quite close enough.
bit optimistic with that one. He wasn't anywhere near close enough to make that work.
Came from a long way back, and you do have that inside curve there that you can run up on if you get it a little bit wrong and don't get inside someone. So that's a nice kind of out for you as a driver. You make the move down at the inside and there's no room for you.
Considering how tight and close these cars are, it's been reasonably clean thus far.
It has, but unfortunately, when you have these cars run as close as they do at Lime Rock, when you do have something go wrong, it usually gets more than one of them.
We talked about it though, Dorsey. It's all about patience. I mean, if you make an unscheduled stop down pit lane, it will really hurt you. With a 45-minute rule, you have a problem like Andrew Davis is. You can maybe work that strategy-wise to get back out there and get back on the lead lap somehow, but typically, unscheduled stop here at Lime Rock costs you dearly.
Yeah, like you said, it's a lap and a half just to get the stop done without even fixing anything that you broke.
See in the background there, the 22 Allegra Motorsports machine. Jean-Francois Dumoulin is now behind the wheel. There's 2 Allegra Porsches here, incidentally, this weekend. We're back at Lime Rock Park, round 6 of the 2007 Rolex GT Series, and take a look at this. While we're away, Kelly Collins has just been eating away Wolf Hensler's lead. There's less than half a second in it.
And I would have to say this is a tire issue because we know that the Porsche runs the rear tires off, and I said the longer it goes green, the better this Pontiac should be.
Kelly Collins loves to call tires sneakers, and right now he is chewing on Wolf's sneakers right there. He wants to see those rear tires go away, and I think Wolf was going really hard in those early laps. Kelly has a very balanced race car right now.
That's Mike Pickett in the Matt Connolly Motorsports BMW. Someone's off there. Whoa, big crash. And that was Nathan Schwartzbar's involved in that in the 72 Taffel. Oh, no! That's the Matt Connolly Pontiac that went into that Porsche. I think it may have been one of the TRG Porsches.
That was oil down. That was a big oil down, and that car got into oil and could no way get turned or stopped.
Oh, you could see that coming. That was ugly. Hopefully everyone's okay in that one. That was a big hit.
3 cars involved. I've got a feeling it was the 66. Definitely Nathan Schwartzbar was involved. Off to the right-hand side,
Yeah,
the car just limping.
Now. He's not one of those 2 cars now.
No.
He's obviously out of the way.
That's the Matt Connolly Motorsports Pontiac. That's a car that's only in its 2nd race for Matt. Ex-TRG Pontiac.
Now all these guys driving through the debris, there's nothing they can do.
Meanwhile, front 2 dive onto pit road. Brian.
Wolf Hensler brings his Talbot Racing Porsche in. Eric Lux will take over. This is exactly what they needed. We talked to Eric Lux earlier. He said rear tires were a concern. You guys were calling it just the way it was. Rear tires were gone. It'll be fuel, 4 tires, and Eric Lux in the 74. Chris?
Well, a lot of action down at my end, too. We've got the 07, the 70, and the 06, and both Pontiacs and the Mazda. No driver changes between any of these teams, so it is just going to be 4 tires and fuel. All 3 teams working on that right now. It's going to be definitely a race off pit lane here. Trying to get that track position back. The 70 car, everything going very good with this pit stop. It looks like it's going to be down and away first, while both Pontiacs still up in the air.
Remember what happened a week ago? There was a pit lane infraction when Tim Lewis Jr. collected one of those tires that was sitting
Take it easy.
away.
The track's partially blocked, Nick. Just take it easy. Reset your fuel. Reset your fuel.
Whoa, look at this. This is tight. This is very tight.
I don't like the look of that, Dorsey. When you've got that many wreckers out there and it's that tight, I think a red flag is more appropriate.
Right, I mean, plus you got oil and antifreeze all over the place.
Incidentally, it's the 67 car of Mark Greenberg from TRG.
Wow, that car is really badly destroyed, I think.
Well, let's have a look at some replays and decipher what went on down in Big Bend, turn 1 here at Lime Rock.
Well, this has already happened. You see this car.
It's got major left front damage already, Dorsey, and that was just added to.
Right. Well, the 21 couldn't stop because it was all in the antifreeze. I mean, we saw it from the backside. You can see it clearly here.
And this is Hal Pruitt about to collide with Mark Greenberg. Bang. Nasty stuff. Nasty stuff. Good job from the other drivers to avoid that. Watch to the left of your screen here.
That's the leader there, Hensler, threading the needle. Kelly right now we're on board with, Kelly Collins.
I think Hensler actually touched something and went up in the air a little bit. Probably just debris, but...
And that's several cars further back on board with Bryce Miller. Well, that was ugly.
But with this much debris on the track, I mean, these boys are going to have to go back, green flag racing here within a few laps. And there's a big question mark. with the amount of carbon fiber that's shattered across this racetrack, about what sort of shape their cars are going to be in.
Well, they've been through that 2 or 3 times now. This driver's up and out.
That's Hal Pruitt.
You know, those shards of carbon fiber are just like little razor blades. They just cut down a tire in a heartbeat. And that's all. That's how narrow that corner is. I mean, there's just nowhere for those guys to avoid that.
Right now, with just really one lane through all that carnage, I would have thought a better move would have been to bring the cars down pit lane and have them sit.
Well, it was a pretty frantic time. Let's catch our breath and catch up with one of the lead drivers.
Lee Wolf-Hensler, such a great job to qualify on the pole, and then you took off at the drop of the green, but it seemed like the longer it stayed green, the more things began to slow down a little bit. Rear tires?
Yeah, right. I had a good run in the beginning, and after, I don't know, was it Kelly Collins passed Nick Ham, the Mazda. Yeah, it seems to be that he was a little bit faster at this time of the race. Yeah, I fall a little bit back. My tires dropped a little bit off. Yeah, so, but anyway, I think, yeah, I was able to keep him behind me. I also stuck a couple of times in the traffic where he gained a little bit time. But, yeah, I mean, it's still 2 hours to go, and, yeah.
As far as when Eric gets in, is there anything that you can tell him on the radio to help him conserve those rear tires a little bit? Sun's starting to come out, the heat's starting to pick up.
Not much. I mean, he knows about the problems, and he knows how to bring the tire over distance.
All right, well, they'll see if they can hold on, guys. A long way to go.
Yeah, good point there, Brian, too, about the heat, because that's something we haven't mentioned yet. It's quite humid here today, too. Quite high temperatures. It's a tough day for the boys in the cars. Next month on Unique Whips, Pam Anderson is known for getting things fired up, but now it's Will's crew's turn to get Pam's engine started with an all-star ride. It's going to be a huge episode of Unique Whips, and that's June 27 at 10 Eastern right here on Speed. We are still under our first full course caution. It's quite a lengthy one, and this is why you don't exactly get to see the whole thing. But this is Kelly Collins chasing race leader Wolf-Hensler. It involves the sister Taffel car. There it is right there of Nathan Schwartzbar. Now, I draw your attention to the left of the screen. Keep looking left. Schwartzbar's the TRG car, Greenberg, has spun, and Nathan just tags him, and then here comes Hal Pruitt. Bang. And that was the larger impact of the two.
Another look at it here. Car sitting stationary. And there's antifreeze on the track. There's the impact with Pruitt. And it hit right on the left rear, Calvin. That's a really strong part of the car.
Yeah, I was more concerned about Mark Greenberg there, just sitting in the racetrack. These two, you look up ahead, that's Nathan Schwartzbar, just clips him. Hensler narrowly misses the sister machine for the Taffel Racing Group. Kelly Collins having a bird's eye view, as we did too.
So we're still under yellow. There's been a variety of stops, and the Speed Source crew have come out on top. Nick Ham now leads the race. This is good stuff from those boys. Let's get down to the pits.
Lee, you know, it's just a little over a month ago when we were at VIR, and everything that happened at Virginia Tech, the tragedy there was really on the front page of all the newspapers. And then in the past few weeks, as typical of most tragedies, it starts working its way back further pages in the newspaper. But Bob Sanderson, crew chief on the 87 car. Bob, still very much on the surface for you.
Yeah, it's a relative of the family, of my wife's family. And he was shot, one of the first ones to get shot at VT, and he's out of the hospital now. He's still got a lot of recovery. He was shot in the mouth, but we're running a decal on our car to remember him by, and there's a .com on there. It'd be nice if people could go to the .com, and the family's been out of work for a bit, taking care of him, and thank you.
Yeah, and that family and friend's name was Sean McQuaid. So,
multi-car crash on course. 3 cars that I can see, 4 cars that I can see.
It's one of the Matt Connolly BMWs. The 24 is in there. The Doncaster Porsche is in the middle, and then the 69 Speed Source RX-8 of Emil Asentato is involved.
Ryan Eversley now behind the wheel of the 24 car. So as you say, Dorsey, cautions breed cautions.
Exactly.
There may still be some fluid down there in the racetrack. Here come the leaders.
Very possible there's fluid down there. Now the lead pack's going to find out in a minute because we're going to head it right in that corner.
And we now are under full course yellows. Just come out. There you see it. So just one green flying lap. And we go back to a slower pace. Well, wonder what happened here.
This is in Big Bend again, turn 1.
Good news there for the 69 machine, I think, is that just took off, beating the pace car. So right now they're staying on the lead lap. The question is, how much damage is on the car? Will he need to pit immediately? See the door.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a hard hit, too, Cal, right in a very strong part of the car. That was where the roll cage comes down. Might have damaged the right rear suspension, too. That's one of the cars. There's a 17.
And Greg Wilkins, for the second time in a week, shortly after taking the wheel of the car, has been involved in an accident. Last week, it wasn't even his fault. He got nailed up at the corkscrew. And this week, after taking over from his son, Mark Wilkins, Dave Lacey not here this weekend, has been involved. Let's see if we can work out where it is. What has gone on?
Yeah, we've got that side-by-side rubbing, as we say, but it's all behind. Looks like stack up in the brake zone, Cal.
It did. Asentato is off to the left side, out of picture right now. Kind of that concertina effect when you're coming down into turn 1 and everyone braking at a different point. Tire pressures, tire temperatures not up. A lot of people have just made pit stops, so any little slip, you can't change direction easily.
Brian.
Down at Matt Connolly Motorsports, Ryan Eversley has brought the BMW in. A lot of damage to the front end of this car. The front bumper pushed into the radiator. I don't see any fluid coming out, so they may be okay there, but a long, hard day for these guys already, and we're just getting into it. The Pontiac GTO, we saw it involved earlier, and now the BMW involved in an incident. These guys are going to have a lot of work cut out for them. A small team, they work really hard, do the best they can, and they were hoping that that new Pontiac GTO that they got a hold of would be what they needed to get the car up front. They're still running the BMW from time to time, but right now, problems with Ryan Eversley, and they're going to try to get this BMW sorted out, try to get the radiator fixed and get him back on track, guys.
Yeah, Matt Connolly hands on there, getting in there and working with these boys. He's not even enjoying driving at the moment. Chris.
Well, pretty major damage done to the 69 car down here. The team trying to do some work on pit lane, but they might have to roll this car back into the paddock. You can see the whole right side of the car here. Huge damage, definitely to also the exhaust pipe there, so this team's going to have a lengthy pit stop.
Right rear suspension failure, not failure, but it's crashed, and Calvin, that'll put it behind the wall.
That's going to be a lengthy fix. Typically, these cars are not built to have those suspension parts changed quickly, but it's a long championship season. They'll try and get him back out there and get some points today.
And it's a bittersweet day for Speed Source, isn't it? One car heavily damaged, the other one in the lead of this motor race. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Lime Rock Park is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And look at what we've got on tape, one of Dorsey's first races.
Somebody got it wrong there.
They'd already been racing 20 years by then.
Old Trans Am start there. Lime Rock's been around a long time, but I haven't been around that long.
Well, it's a wonderful place, and it truly is a park. It's set in the Berkshire Mountains here in northwestern Connecticut, and there is many a wonderful story about racing days here at Lime Rock Park, and it's wonderful to be back. We've got speed full coverage here, and it's the Rolex GT Series. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Chris Neville and Brian Till with you. And this is a race of attrition, folks. They are dropping like flies. Multiple accidents. It was a relatively clean, say, opening, 30-odd laps, 35-odd laps. But now we have a field that is being rapidly reduced in numbers.
And Calvin, we talked about patience around this racetrack. This is exactly what happens if you're not patient. You go side by side in turn 1 with 4 cars, well, you end up with a big wreck happening. It's always been that way. It's just the nature of this beast. It needs a lot of race cars.
It is, and it's tough to make. I mean, a lot of these corners, you're really coming through them with kind of almost a slide. There's a lot of weight transfer to the outside of the racetrack. If something happens, you literally can't get back to the inside and slow it down enough, and I think that's what we saw down there in turn 1.
It's such a defensive racetrack when you're racing it. I mean, you're looking all the time for those type of scenarios around you, to try to avoid the pitfalls.
That was Patrick Long in the 81 Synergy Porsche coming in. I believe it may have been to serve a penalty. He was involved in that first turn, the Big Bend accident that was the cause of this last caution. He said he had nothing to do with it. He was hit. He said he was hit by the 69 of Emil Asentato. and basically everybody was saying it wasn't me. So we'll find out if that was indeed a penalty or it just was a duck to pit lane for something else. Meanwhile, we're getting ready to go back to racing at Speed Source's Nick Ham, who leads this motor race over Kelly Collins in the Pontiac GXPR and Leighton Reese. Two of the top three are the Pontiacs. The green flies once again. The roar, the rumble. The big cars are up front, mixing it with the Porsches and Mazdas.
Stavely being very aggressive there in the red Pontiac, number 30. Trying to make a move there on Eric Lux, who's taken over from Wolf Hensler, our pole sitter.
Pretty impressed with Stavely. I mean, this kid's really doing a good job. He hasn't been that much time in the car. Ooh, almost contact there.
Yeah, he kind of slowed up there. Didn't have the momentum through that final right-hander, and the Porsche right behind him certainly did.
Very much was Porsche's weekend last weekend. Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, first, second and third. In addition to that, of course, Ruby Tuesday Championship Racing winning the Daytona prototype race. What a glorious weekend for the German Mark. Will we see a change here?
I certainly think the longer we go green, it's going to play into the hands of the Pontiac drivers, because we've already saw Wolf Hensler admit that he had trouble.
Someone dropped the wheel off. And just to get back to you on the Patrick Long situation, race control confirming that Patrick Long was involved in that turn 1 incident and will serve a penalty shortly.
I think that's one of those cases where Patrick has a little bit of a target on his back right now from some of the moves he's been making in DP racing. Same director of competition here, Mark Raffoff, of course, so if Patrick starts to get a little bit aggressive, he's probably not going to get a freebie.
They should hold it over on you from one series to another, but they do.
Well, let's hear what his teammate Craig Stanton has to say, Chris.
Craig, this track is so tight, and the racing's so tight up front, and obviously a lot of contact going on out there. Pat's going to get a penalty for that contact. Is it just impossible to race out there without making a little bit of contact?
No, it's not impossible, but it's really hard. You know, you got to really use your mirrors and cohabitate out there. What it is like Bristol on a Saturday night. That's no difference. We're going to serve it drive-through right now, and I believe we have to come back in for a 10-second penalty. So we got to kind of do this in the green. We want to make sure that we catch up to the pack, and then we'll serve our 10 seconds so we don't go down a lap. That's the whole key here, is not to go down. Just like Bristol, you got to stay on the lead lap.
Now, typically we see Steve Johnson and Patrick Heusman in that car, but they're taking the weekend off, so these guys coming in just for a one-off.
Yeah, Patrick Heusman racing in the Porsche Super Cup race at the Monaco F1 Grand Prix, and Steve Johnson had some business commitments.
Kelly Collins really working over Nick Ham now. I think it's a matter of time before this Pontiac's going to be leading.
Driver changes to occur in these cars. Of course, Sylvain Tremblay will take over the lead car. Kelly Collins will hand over to Paul Edwards. Wow. Inside, look at this. He's given him plenty of space.
Yeah, Nick Ham just left that door totally open.
He was just running a rim shot around the outside there, but Kelly couldn't get the power down early enough and gain traction to make the move and out to accelerate him. He would have been on the outside for the left-hander anyway, so it may have been tough. But putting the pressure on. He wants by. He's got a strong car. Maybe he feels he can pull a bit of a gap and get the car in good shape for when he turns it over to Paul Edwards.
Behind these two, it's Leighton Reese, Eric Lutz, Drew Stavely. That's your top 5. Then Lee Keane, Bryce Miller. So Keane's got ahead of Miller, Bunting, Louis-Philippe Dumoulin, and Alex Tagliani in the top 10. Brian?
Guys, you talk about being aggressive out here. That's exactly what the Tafel Racing crew is talking to the officials about. Greg Jones from Tafel Racing was saying, hey guys, the 30 car on these restarts is really jumping out of line and beginning to encroach. You know, we want to talk about a penalty for jumping the restarts. They're saying, no way, you can peak. You just can't get alongside them. Right now, Drew Stavely, aggressive, but safe, guys.
New race leader, Kelly Collins, has the Pontiac out in front for the first time.
Told you that was going to happen.
Yeah, he's got a strong race car. Here he is behind the wheel. He's been out front many times before. He's won many races here. These Pontiacs were very fast here last year. He finished second with Paul Edwards. Different chassis slightly, but
we haven't seen the Pontiac slip at all, though. You know, we've seen all the other cars. The Porsches were starting to move around at the end of their stand-up. Certainly the Mazdas looked loose to us from the beginning. But the Pontiacs have really looked like they've got a lot of grip to them.
They did a lot of work, Dorsey, with old tires that had many laps on them. So as this race goes on, you would think they would just become stronger. They weren't really focused on qualifying. They said it almost took them by surprise when they put new tires on for qualifying. Didn't get the best out of the car. And here we see the other Pontiac from the Bannerani Racing Group, Leighton Reese, starting to put the pressure on the 70 machine as well.
Seeing if he can force Nick Ham into an error. As we take you back to a replay, this is the pass for the lead. Kelly Collins in the yellow Pontiac, Nick Ham in the white Mazda RX-8. Take a look at this.
Good job of drafting down the straightaway, waits to the last minute, pops to the inside. Nick Ham let that happen pretty gentlemanly, I would say.
Yeah, it was a massive slip. It didn't look like from the straight ahead position. Here we are on board right now with Kelly. Nick up ahead. Let's take a look and see what Nick's car does.
Well, I think he had to lift a little bit. I think Nick Ham got loose up on top of that curbing and had to get out of the throttle.
We picked up that replay a little bit later. I thought we were actually heading into the downhill there. They'd already been through that corner. So obviously a lot going on there.
Chris.
Well, Kelly Collins right now reporting to the team that Pontiac GXP-R is a little bit tight in handling, just meaning it isn't turning into the corner as well as he would like. But the car running up front, they can't be too disappointed with what they've got. Now, the cars were last time on track this morning. It was overcast, much cooler, looked like it was potentially going to rain. And some of the teams had said that they started going in a little bit different direction with their setup, not anticipating it to clear up. So much sun, and the track really heating up because of the sun out here today. Brian?
You're exactly right, Chris. When I checked in with the guys from Tapple Racing, they said the track temperature today and the ambient is hotter than it's been since Friday when they practiced and qualified on Saturday. Last chance they really had to run the cars for any period of time. It was much cooler and cloudier, so they're really concerned about those rear tires. I know we keep talking about it with the Porsches, but that will be the Achilles heel of the Porsche drivers today.
Leighton Reese on Nick Ham. Here we go. It comes down to a braking duel. Does Leighton go all the way? Yes, he does. Pontiac is 1-2 here at Lime Rock.
They talked about the pressure on them from within and externally, corporately, about they have to get to that top step of the podium. They know they're coming into a series of racetracks, Dorsey, where this car should shine. That's what we're seeing here in race time.
I figured they do pretty well here. Like we talked about, this chassis seems to really suit this racetrack.
That's one of the things that the officials technically have not wanted to give this car too much, because they realize that there are strengths and weaknesses of all of the different marks, and they really felt that the Pontiac hadn't got to the racetracks where it really strut its stuff. So we saw that slight weight adjustment on the Mazdas and the Porsches a couple of races ago, which certainly had some effect. Right now we're getting to a racetrack that really suits. Look at Stavely. It could be a Pontiac 1-2-3 here in a moment.
Looking on the inside of Nick Ham, he'll be cognizant of what Leighton Reese was able to achieve on the previous lap. Can't do it this time round. Chris?
Well, this kind of goes back to what we saw at the beginning of the race. Nick Ham just saying it's just taking a little bit longer for these tires to come in today. That car being so light, the pressures don't come up, the heat doesn't go into the tires like it does for the Pontiac. So he's just having to kind of work his way around. Once that does come in, the team's saying we think Nick's going to have the car to get him back up front.
Drew Stavely's given a very good showing for himself. I'll tell you, he's up against the best right now in a car that he's got very little seat time in.
We've certainly seen Nick Ham employ this strategy, Dorsey. I remember Mexico City where they won. He sort of dropped back in the early laps, but then had a much stronger car in the middle of the stint. But if we relate this stint to what we saw at the first part of the race, yes, he struggled a little bit early on, but it didn't seem to get any better. We saw Kelly Collins make the move on him after several laps on the tires.
Pretty nice Porsche battle going on behind these boys. Eric Lux, Lee Keane, Bryce Miller. And a good job from Mark Bunting to get up there as well. He's sitting in 8th position. Alex Tagliani's 9th. And Louis-Philippe Dumoulin, Francois' brother, younger brother. Great to have him in the series.
They had to make those names difficult, didn't they?
It's tough when you go from calling him JF, isn't it?
Yeah, much easier with that. Well, Brian, I know one happy man would be the team owner of the Racer's Edge group.
Drew Stavely doing a spectacular job, but so is this whole Racer's Edge team. John Meraki, you guys really have more of a Formula Car background in the Rolex Sports Car Series now. You got the Pontiac. Tell us about Drew. You got to be impressed.
I'm very impressed with the young man. He's so calm and composed behind the wheel. We can chat on the radio. He's not all excited. He's a tremendous driver. Tremendous.
Great to be with Pontiac. I know you're talking about how calm Drew is in the car, but I'm watching your hand shake a little bit. You nervous?
Oh, yeah, sure, I'm nervous. This is, race number 5 for us in the series. And, you know, it's just exciting to be up front for sure.
It sounds like it's now a Pontiac 1, 2, 3.
It certainly is, and that's the applause in the background because Stavely was able to execute that move on Nick Ham. So we have 3 Pontiac GXPRs in the top 3 positions. Kelly Collins, Leighton Reese, Drew Stavely. That's how it sits with still a good length of time to run in this round 6 Rolex GT race here at Lime Rock.
And look at Stavely. He's the quickest of the 3 Pontiacs, I believe.
He is. Leighton protected there a little bit down to the inside. John Marachi there showing what position he's right in, but there may be 2 in a moment.
Kelly's coming in. Here's Collins on pit road. And Stavely's going for the lead. He's hassling big time on Leighton Reese. Inside, outside. Leighton has the preferred line.
There must be an issue with Kelly Collins. I can't believe it would be a strategy call to make this a scheduled pit stop, so something may be amiss.
Chris?
Well, it sounds like Kelly Collins might have a left front flat. That tire does look a little bit low in comparison to the right front, so he may have picked up on something before he had a real problem on the racetrack. He gets out of the car, he kicks that tire, he goes by it, and Paul Edwards getting behind the wheel of the team saying, hey, let's just not do this tire change, let's do our driver change too. So this is not what the team wanted here, but they're trying to get this everything done smooth here. I saw a little fire underneath the car, but it looks like something maybe just coming off the brakes. But other than that, big problems here so far with the Banner Engineering team.
Well, the key is he's not having to put a full fuel load of gas in there, so can they get out and beat the leaders? It's going to be tight. I don't think it's going to happen.
Good job. Okay, leaders are coming around right now.
Boy, he's going to have to really fight. He's going to have to really get after it here.
That was huge. If that had been a perfect pit stop, he may have been able to stay on the lead lap strictly because he was the leader. We're talking about the amount of time that it just takes to come down pit lane.
And, of course, he's going to be a sitting duck now for about a lap or 2 till those temperatures and pressures come up.
It's one of the brutal aspects of Lime Rock, isn't it? You can go down a lap so quickly. And take a look at that. Leighton Reese leads the race. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. By Sea-Doo. Break free and discover the exhilaration of Sea-Doo. We're back. We climb aboard with Leighton Reese inside the Pontiac GXPR. Well, things going great for him, not so for his teammate Kelly Collins, who's standing by.
Lee, I grabbed Kelly Collins before he ran out of here. Not very happy right now. Kelly was the left front that was going down. Was that potentially because of all the debris left on the racetrack after those 2 incidents?
Absolutely. I radioed to my pits twice in both of those incidents down in turn 1 that there's metal all over the track for the Grand Am officials to go down and get it. We ended up with a puncture in the lead of this race, running fine, and the Banner Racing Pontiac GXP is fantastic. The team's doing a great job, and we're a lap down because of it. I mean, there's fiberglass, carbon fiber, and metal all over down there, and I radioed about the apex in several places. I almost went off in turn 6 down here and had to give up the lead and come in.
Is there enough time for Paul Edwards to work it back up front?
Well, the lucky dog, if it goes yellow, there's a chance that we could actually make it back. If it hurts us, it will have to pit again, but I say we just start taking tires and fuel and not worry too much about that. But this could have been avoidable.
Obviously, very disappointed, but his team owner, Leighton Reese, running up front now.
And Paul Edwards is running hot. He's trying to force his way through and get back onto the lead lap. We're with him now. He's already caught up to Nick Ham.
Well, we talked about it, Dorsey, just so much debris down there. I just didn't see a way that those drivers could thread through that without possibly getting some damage to those tires.
No, they had to drive through there at least 3 times before any debris was cleaned up whatsoever. So, like I said, that carbon fiber stuff's like razor blades.
Oh, check Edwards out here. He is not hanging about for anybody.
He is fired up, but this is where you have to be patient. One thing being patient when the race is kind of in its normal mode. Right now they're behind the 8 ball, but don't make it worse. You've got a long championship season ahead of you. We know you have a good race car, but don't throw it all away.
Looks like Nick Ham's starting to dance all around again. That Mazda looks like it's losing grip. Here, Paul's got a good run. He'll get him down turn 1.
He'll take him. Nick has pretty good straightaway speed, particularly the second half, but the Pontiac should be better under braking. There he goes.
Inside.
That was very clinical. Very smooth, very clinical, and Edwards has some good pace going here at the moment. last time round, a 54.8 was the best lap time. This time, 55.9. So working that momentum.
Traffic will play a huge part in lap time here. You can easily lose 2-3 seconds just by catching them in the wrong spot. But Paul Edwards is working the car hard. Now, they pitted with a long way to go in this race. I don't think they're going to be able to do it without another stop, or at least a splash of gas. We're about an hour 7 in when that Pontiac was in pit lane. So that means they've got to go an hour 23 to see the checkered flag here this afternoon. That's an awful long time to go on a tank of fuel.
Well, now it's Lee Keen wanting the position from Nick Ham. I think the Mazda falling off its pace. We haven't seen that much this year. That car usually stays pretty solid.
As we talk about the lightweight Mazda, how balanced it is. They've had a slight weight increase, which they said didn't really hurt them too much at Laguna. And I just think this is a setup issue, Dorsey. I don't care what Nick Ham is saying. I mean, he's not running the lap time that he would be happy with. And he's getting pressure from everyone right now.
And you can see that car just stepping out at the back every time you get to a corner.
Lee Keen, who didn't get much time in the car at Laguna Seca a week ago. Craig Stanton did the majority of that work. Lee's got his regular co-driver back with him this weekend in Dominic Farnbacher, and this is a promising run, while Nick Ham looks like he has got his hands full with that car.
The problem is, if he's really holding this train of cars up, one of these guys will end up getting it. But look how sideways he is there off the downhill.
Yeah,
one of these guys is going to get impatient, Dorsey.
Yeah, you know, Nick, when he gets loose at the exit of the corner like that, has got to lift off the throttle to some degree. Leaves him a sitting duck.
Bryce Miller is tucked in behind these two in the second Farnbacher Lowell's Porsche. And Eric Lux is the 74 Taffel machine.
Oh, man, Nick Ham is holding on for dear life right now. He's got a handful of cars.
Eric Lux there also coming under pressure.
Look at this, look at this. Edwards continues this surge. He has passed everybody he has to, except for his teammate and race leader Leighton Reese. One more car, and Paul Edwards has himself back on the lead lap.
And they should let that happen. Leighton Reese should have no resistance whatsoever.
No.
Let him go.
Let him go. I mean, Paul dodged the inside there. That's certainly not on, but I would think that the crew right now will be thinking about this. There is no point in letting these cars run too closely together. But once again, the 85 machine of Lee Keen putting the pressure on that Mazda that does not seem to be happy.
That's what he's got to do too, Calvin. Just keep that pressure on. Nick Ham's going to slide. Like we know the back's going to cut out somewhere.
Just got to time it though, Dorsey. You just got to be not so close that when he slides, you have to check up as well. You just got to have constant acceleration as he's making his move.
Keen is just not letting him get away. Into West Bend. This is a tricky spot to execute it, but he does it. That's lovely.
That'll slow him up. Watch, he'll be suspect now. Get past again.
This is Bryce Miller we ride with.
There's nothing Nick can do about that.
No, he's a sitting duck right now. He just has to minimize the damage right now, and by that I think he just needs to be really smart about how hard he wants to battle these other race cars. Think big picture right now.
Andy Lally is the next car in the line. He's not on the lead lap, but he's trying to work his way there.
Eric Lux read that so perfectly. He knew when the two cars went side by side through West Bend, they'd be slow on the downhill, so he timed his pass.
Look at Andy here. Last week's race winner, trying to force his way through. He's currently in 14th position. Still got a long way left to run in this race. Plenty of driver changes coming up as well. Not the case for the 66. Lally has taken over, of course, from RJ Valentine. Chris, what do you have?
Well, checking in with the Speed Source team. Sylvan, you guys had the lead when we went back to green, but right now Nick Ham's slipping back. Is there anything going on with that car?
Obviously, you know, we're on the wrong tires right now, so we're going to put stickers at the stop and see how it goes. You know, our little car is a little car. We don't have much torque and get skinny tires. So obviously, you know, the big V8 horsepower is doing well today.
He's getting in that point where he's going to be fighting with a bunch of Porsches right now. Is that torque just really going to kill him when he gets caught up in there?
It hurts our momentum. That's the biggest thing. You know, we're a momentum car. You know, their momentum's different than ours. So we'll have to see. You know, we're just waiting for the pit window, and we'll put me in it, 4-sticker tires, and see what happens.
Another tough day for our point leaders.
The normally upbeat Sylvain Tremblay not looking so excitable at the moment, and understandably. We've got a problem here for Alex Tagliani in the 15 Mustang for Black Forest Motorsports.
Must have been a spin there.
Spin onto the front straight, yeah.
And that damage, of course, was there before. That's not from that spin that he just now had.
And you can see in the background there, Greg Wilkins has come back out in the Doncaster Porsche. Andy Lally gets by on the 70, and Eric Lux is trying to work his way through. Lux and Ham, that's for position. Andy Lally's wasn't for position. He continues his hunt to get back on the lead lap. Another caution and things would be looking sweet for Andy Lally. The field compress.
Well, the key is he wants to get to that first car that's not quite on the lead lap. If there is another caution, he'd take advantage of that. That position was Alex Tagliani's a short while ago, but I'm not sure with that spin until we see the timing and scoring recycle whether he's still in that lucky dog position.
Speaking of tag, here he is.
There's a big moment for you on the downhill.
Well, he's already been a lucky dog, Dorsey. He didn't hit anything.
No, that is very lucky, Calvin, right there. Nobody hit him either.
Time for a quick break. We're into the second half of this 2.5-hour maximum time limit GT race. More after the break. Welcome back, folks. GT racing at Lime Rock Park in the Rolex Sports Car Series continues. And this is your race leader, Leighton Reese. But he doesn't have much of a lead, does he? It's another Pontiac GXPR right behind him in Drew Stavely for Racer's Edge. And this has been a very impressive performance from a relatively new driver at this level of sports car racing. Thoroughly enjoying his time in a very different car to what he's been used to racing. And he's hanging right there. Look up ahead. That's Paul Edwards. That's how much he has gapped Reese after getting back on the lead lap. Brian.
I just checked in with John Meraki at Racer's Edge Motorsports about Drew Stavely. I said, I would assume that since you're running 1-2, you'll be satisfied with that right now because I'm sure that GM doesn't want you mixing it up. And he said, amazingly enough, the only thing that we've gotten from GM is you boys can race, just don't take each other out. So that is a big feather in the cap. Obviously, GM has a lot of belief in Racer's Edge Motorsports and also Drew Stavely if he's going to let him race for the lead.
How many times have you heard that said before?
Yeah. Right now, these boys are putting a pretty good gap on the Porsches. And Paul Edwards is absolutely flying, of course, on that fresh rubber that he took after Kelly Collins' unfortunate puncture.
Good work here from Eric Lux. The Rembrandt Charms Taffel Porsche, and he's looking for another spot. Tucked in behind him is Mark Bunting, defending Series GT champion. Patrick Long's in 8th. Louis-Philippe Dumoulin is 9th. And Will Nonamaker in the Team Salem Corvette is in the top 10.
Wow, that Mazda really stretched the gap there on the Porsche down the straightaway. Here comes Long to the inside, using all of that curb.
He loves racing at this track, and he gets Mark Bunting fairly effectively. He said it's busy. I'm always busy out there, but that's one of the great things about this track. It's exciting. There's never a dull moment. Fair point, Dawes?
Very fair point. And I'll tell you what, it's physically abusive to the driver from the standpoint that there is nowhere to rest. The straightaway is very short here, and this racetrack is so rough, it really pummels you.
First, second. Not much in it, is there? Driver changes coming up. Tim Lewis Jr. standing by for this lead car. He'll take over from Leighton, and Mark Pavan will dive into the cockpit in the Racer's Edge machine. More on the Stevenson Motorsports Group. Here's Brian.
Well, Lee, you'll remember last year Stevenson ran so well here. Different drivers this year, Mark Bunting and Dominic Cicero. Dominic, this racetrack seems to be well suited for that Corvette. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. We finally are starting to get a hang of this new Corvette, and the Stevenson guys are working really hard to get it up front. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, obviously a lot of power, a lot of torque, and it's a big car. It works a lot like those Pontiac GXPs. Chris?
Well, the 85 machine coming in. Lee Keane handing it over to Dominic Farnbacher. The team deciding to do this pit stop under green. They think they can go the rest of the distance. Now, this is something we heard from Sylvain Tremblay is we think we were on the wrong tires, whether we should be on scuffs or slicks or sticker slicks. And this the Dominic Farnbacher team right now putting scuffs on this car. So a lot of different combinations going on down here. Pretty good stop by the team. Now, they're being held here for 10 seconds. This goes back to that last caution. So they're going to take that assessment now and see if they can make up the time with a little, I think they have an hour to go.
Speaking with team principal Greg Lowles this morning. He said there's no doubt about it. This is a tyre race, not a fuel race. And Patrick Long has pulled off 2 positional moves in a lap. Same corner, well, similar corner, close by. He's on a real move in that Synergy Porsche.
Just want to point out the team really has the option to run sticker tires throughout because there's no restraint on how many sets of tires you can run in GT like with the Daytona prototype category. So just really strategy that is made over the course of the weekend on which way you want to go. We certainly heard what Sylvain Tremblay thought about it.
Back at the front, Pontiac 1-2. And they've got a very healthy gap over Bryce Miller, who's in 3rd place to the tune of some 10 seconds. They have a very, very healthy gap. They're in good shape, and the beat up on Nick Ham continues.
Poor Nick Ham. I'll tell you what, he's waiting for a caution or something. Nobody's his friend today.
Look at Bunting on the inside in the Corvette. The muscle cars are performing beautifully here today.
Big time. Banzai moved there a little bit by Mark. He got in so deep, locked it all up. Pat Long fortunately saw him coming, let him have it, and then immediately took that position. But good recovery, Dawes.
Yeah, he might have saved a flat spotted tire right there. You know, he really did a good job of not stuffing it out in the ditch. As these guys still having a good run. Really impressed with the Drew Stavely. I mean, he's really just staying so close to the back end right there of Leighton.
All right, let's take a look again at what happened to Mark Bunting, who, of course, won this GT title last year with Andy Lally. You got Eric Lux in the middle and Nick Ham right of screen.
It's a little bit dirty down there on the inside. Remember, that is not the typical racing line. So when you go all the way down the right side of the track, it's a little bit dusty. If you try and get to your normal braking point, it's not going to work, as we saw there.
So a reprieve for those guys. Contact avoided, which is good. It's Reese, Stavely, Bryce Miller, Patrick Long now, who just laid down a time in the low 55s. He is flying out there for the Synergy Porsche team. Then Nick Ham is 5th, then Lux, Bunting, Dumoulin, Edwards, Nonamaker. That's the top 10.
Have to be thinking here, is Drew Stavely able to save any fuel? If he's able to save a little bit of fuel sitting here behind Leighton Reese, they can stretch their fuel stop maybe a lap or 2 longer. That may be enough to leapfrog this black Pontiac during the round of pit stops. But think about the pressure on the 2 drivers who are going to be taken over from these 2 boys.
You know, I was having that same thought that you were, Calvin, that it looks to me like Drew Stavely is just settled in. He's just running laps off right now. He's getting the full advantage of the draft, a little bit better fuel mileage.
These Banner Racing GXPRs are fresh cars. They're new cars. Inside move here, Lee Keane. Nice work. They're new cars, while the Racer's Edge Pontiac was a GTO transformed into a GXPR, and it is performing beautifully.
Wolf Hensler back behind the wheel of the number 74 Tafel Racing Porsche. Eric Luck brings it in. This is a green flag stop. It's going to cost them a lot of time, and they've got a good car to run to the end. Wolf Hensler back on track.
And I just want to correct myself too. That was Dominic Farnbacher who made the move on the inside of Nick Ham, trying to get back on the lead lap. Now Wolf Hensler back in the car that he set pole position with.
I'm a little bit surprised at this strategy. We obviously assume that they can make it to the end without another stop for fuel, but the way their tyres were going away, Dorsey, you would think they'd want to stretch that middle stint a little bit longer so Wolf has a stronger car at the end.
It's going to make him very weak at the end. You're right, Cal. I mean, the tires are going to be off. We've seen that. And if there's a charged at bank, he's not going to have the equipment to do it with without another stop.
We know that the Porsches can go, what, hour and a quarter, hour and 20 on a fuel tank. But we'll see how well those tyres hang in there. Meanwhile, this is 1st and 2nd. And the battle for 3rd, Pat Long continues his surge. He is by the 87 of Bryce Miller. This is great running. Brian, what do you have for us?
You guys were talking about fuel and tires and making it to the end. I checked in with the team, Tafel Racing team. They said, actually, they're not concerned about Wolf and the tires. They think he can keep the tires on it. What they're really concerned about is making sure they have enough fuel to the end.
Well, I don't understand why they stopped yet. They shouldn't have been out of fuel, Brian. I mean, we had that caution period that they took advantage of, but I wouldn't have thought they'd be out just yet.
We will monitor that. We'll also monitor this guy in 3rd place, Pat Long. Just continues to tick them off his list. with Bryce Miller. He'll hand over to Dirk Werner shortly.
About this strategy that Brian Till was just talking about, if they were having to pit right now because they were out of fuel, then they are going to really struggle to get to the end.
Yeah, they will. They're going to be out of tire and fuel at the end. It seems a bit awkward, though.
First and second coming up on one of the team's Salem Corvettes. Speaking with that team earlier today, they've enjoyed the challenge of the transition from Porsches, racing Porsches for many, many years, to these two brand new Irv Hare-built Corvettes. It's been a learning experience, but an enjoyable one. And
Leighton. Mistake there. Watch if he doesn't get past.
That's tough. He was slow off that corner. The key is here is Drew Staveley.
Yeah.
Side by side, and the Racer's Edge car takes the lead.
That's exactly what happens if you go side by side through that downhill. A guy that's smart backs off, gets a run at you, and just drives by the straightaway. Good for Drew Staveley.
Beautiful move. That team has got to be going ballistic down there in pit lane right now, taking the lead for the first time this year.
Young Californian out in front. Super stuff. Brian, tell us more about Taffel Racing.
Well, I went ferreting around, as you like to say, Lee, and spoke to the crew guys again. And the deal was, several laps ago, or actually right after Kelly Collins had that left front cut down, they thought they had an issue as well. Something happened in the car that really affected the way it was working. They thought they might have cut down a tire. The pressure stayed up. They left Eric Lux out, but the car just didn't have the speed anymore. So they said, you know what? Let's stop this drop to the back. We'll bring it in. We'll take tires and fuel. We'll put Wolf Ensler back in. He should be good with the tires, and hopefully we'll make it to the end on fuel.
Okay, that makes all good sense up until the point, why would you even gamble on fuel? I mean, if the car does have tire pressure in it, make sure you're inside your window. You don't want to gamble by 2 or 3 laps there, Dorsey. Make sure you're inside the window and then make that call. Everything else sounded sound.
Yeah, something else. I'm very impressed with this car. I mean, what a great job the Pontiac boys have done all the way across the board, I should say.
You see the wry smile there of John Marachi, team owner of Racer's Edge. He's loving seeing his red Pontiac out in front.
The man is driving with a lot of maturity, you know, for a young guy. I mean, that move he made back there, that was textbook.
The key is now, how much more speed does he have than Leighton Reese? Now the reins are literally on that car. He can go for it.
They're just getting by the 8th place car, the 26 Porsche, Allegra Porsche of Louis-Philippe Dumoulin, who's sharing with Carlos de Quesada. Carlos is actually riding in a couple of cars today in the 22 as well. He's cross-entered. Said he just wanted to do some more driving, so they brought along a second Porsche in the Allegra Motorsports camp. We take you back and revisit the pass for the lead front on. Take a look at the red car left of screen.
Well, you see side by side to the bottom means both those cars had to lift. Drew Staveley in the 30 red Pontiac did not have to lift. He's got the top end coming. Now, Leighton's trying to make it difficult on him a little bit, but there's no way this is not going to happen.
Here's another look there. Drew Staveley obviously couldn't exit the corner on the correct line, but he still had more speed through the middle of the corner than Leighton Reese did, and just made it stick. Pretty easy move for him at the end of the day. But right now, Dorsey, I think he's showing a clean pair of heels to Leighton Reese.
And there it is again, the pass. See, now you're side by side at the apex. You can do it without hitting, but you got to lift off throttle. Look to the right. Drew Staveley didn't have to lift off the throttle. As a result, his Pontiac out top ends the other Pontiac.
Well, Drew and the Racer's Edge Pontiac caught a few people's eye by qualifying 5th. They finished 5th last week in Laguna. Patrick Long said to me this morning, this guy, where's he from? He's like, he's a SoCal kid. I'm a SoCal kid. I've never heard of him. So I went and found him and I said, did you do go-karts or anything? He said, no, I did autocross. So I worked my way up there and then went into Miatas. And Patrick Long, who's a terrific racer in his own right, he said, I'm impressed by this young guy.
Autocross, of course, is a race against time on pylon course. What it teaches you is car control. It teaches you car placement, and it teaches you the control of the car. All you do then is add the speed of a road race track, and you're on the money.
That brings up the age-old question, how much talent is out there that is never discovered. I mean, motor racing is unlike tennis or football or baseball or whatever, where a lot of people have a chance to really see what sort of skills they have. And a lot of these development programs are a great way for young drivers to get into it. And that setup program that we're seeing on Speed over the last few years is really discovering some new talent, it seems.
We're less than an hour from home. It's this man here, Drew Stavely from Leighton Reese. Patrick Long third, Bryce Miller fourth. And the fourth place car is on pit road. Chris.
And you see Bryce Miller making his way down to the pit box. Dirk Brenner going to be behind the wheel. This team also going with some scuffed tires. I checked in with the team to see if they were good on fuel, and they kind of gave me a look like we think so. So I'm going to have to check back in with them because we just didn't have time to ask any more questions and figure out why they would be bringing them in if they weren't good on fuel. So going to have to either check in and see what's going on there, or they're going to have to hope for a caution here. You can see Dirk Brenner really throwing Bryce Miller out of the car there as the team is quickly working these tires in, getting the fuel in the car, and Dirk getting belted up.
This guy is a rocker. He's really been a revelation this season, Lee, in showing the signs of speed that we're seeing thus far. The team obviously won at VIR, and he's definitely going to be a factor here over the next hour. Still racing in Europe this year, but his main priority is here in America with this Rolex series, formerly of Porsche Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup in Germany. And the graduates of that series, we've seen many of them here in America. American Patrick Long is one. Wolf Hensler another. I mean, the list goes on. Lucas Lewis, Sasha Masson. We've seen plenty of them, and this is the latest graduate of that tough, fast, hard series. Reminding you that Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, Payback returns with a whole new season of custom rides and superstars, because when you make it to the top, you've got to say thank you in a big way. It's Payback, Thursday at 9 Eastern, right here on Speed. We're back, Lime Rock Park, Connecticut. Mark Bunting brings the Stevenson Corvette in. Brian.
Car right on the marks. Mark Bunting, the 2006 GT co-champion, brings it in. He'll hop out. Dominic Cicero hopping in. Mike Johnson, who works with us sometimes, also drove earlier in the day in one of the Coney Challenge events, helping with the driver assist, also helping manage this team a little bit on the weekend, helping Cicero in. A routine stop. This car has run well here. It's like I said, it's a big, heavy car, a nice V8 engine, a lot like the Pontiac GXPR. They're having a nice run today, Chris.
7 Tremblay strapping himself behind the wheel of the 70 Mazda. The team getting the tire change done already, just finishing up fuel. This is going to be a pretty quick stop. The stop on the 70, or on the 87 car was much slower, so this team really trying to catch up, see if they can make up a spot there. Just waiting for fuel. They're already down and away. Now, we did check in with Farnbacher Lowles, and they said they are good on fuel. They're worried about tires, but the reason they came in, they said Bryce Miller was just worn out.
Understandably, it's a very physical track, as Dorsey and Calvin mentioned earlier on. And Sylvain Tremblay told us earlier in the weekend the reason, the philosophy behind Nick Ham qualifying and then starting is when it gets towards the end of the race and the car's a little bit more of a handle, because Sylvain is the team principal, he's driven these cars for a lot longer, he knows how to work it and handle it. We've got a problem with the Black Forest Mustang of Alex Tagliani.
That was a fire that you see the corner marshals have already put out. Looks like Tags drove it off the end of the left-hander. And we're going to get a full course yellow as a result of this.
This is big because the 30 and the 05 have not pitted yet. So this is really going to play into their hands. Our 2 leaders will be able to pit and take advantage of this under caution as opposed to green.
And who does it help in terms of the lucky dog, the second chance? We'll wait until our timing screen cycles again, but it works handsomely for these guys. The Racer's Edge Pontiac is in. Drew Stavely is on pit road, and we applaud you, young man. What a great drive. Super performance amongst some star talent.
Fantastic drive by Drew Stavely. When he came into pit lane, their second place car wasn't even at the apex of the downhill yet. Mark Pavan will be taking over, taking Stavely a little bit to get out. He's hooked on the window net. He's getting the cool suit unplugged. Remember, this guy doesn't have a lot of experience in endurance racing, so they finally have gotten the cool suit unplugged. Now Pavan going in. Should be a routine stop, but that one little hiccup could cost him dearly. Luckily, they're under full course caution, Chris.
Paul Edwards already down and away. He brought that car in immediately. We have to remember he was at the back end of that lead lap, but he's going to make up some time here. That was a very short pit stop because no driver change. They just had to do tires and fuel, and he didn't have to take out as much fuel as everybody else. Also, Leighton Reese in the 06 coming in, handing over to Tim Lewis, the team trying to get this pit stop done, see if they can beat the Racer's Edge group out. Right now, everything going well with the 06 pit stop, and Racer's Edge car down. Tim Lewis also down, and Tim Lewis beating that Racer's Edge car out.
Big move by Paul Edwards there. I mean, the speed that he showed, Dorsey, in making his way back onto that lead lap and then getting that caution. Chris called it perfectly. A lot less fuel having to go into that car. He took fresh tires, no driver change. He leapfrogged those other two Pontiacs.
That was mega for him. He caught that just perfectly, but he gets held here at pit out.
And he was being held earlier. Brian's in the middle of this. He was held at his pit box, and now he's being held again at the end of pit road. Brian, what's happening down there?
Well, some type of an infraction. I haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, but the official is saying that one of the crew members touched a piece of equipment. He could not. It may have been the fueler. Remember, the fueler can only fuel the car. He cannot pick up any other equipment or work on the car, so that may be it. Try to get to the bottom of the infraction and find out, but he was held for 10 seconds after his stop and then got caught at the end of pit road.
Well, just when we were into somewhat of a calm rhythm, it's exploded here at Lime Rock Park. These boys will not be happy at Racer's Edge. Alex Tagliani, we believe there was contact between Pat Long in the 81 and Tagliani, and medical here at the track are taking a look at tags because there was smoke billowing everywhere from that car. We believe he has inhaled quite a bit of it, and let's hope that Alex is okay. So it's all been happening here at Lime Rock. Brian Moore.
I'm still ferreting, Lee. All right, this is what I ferreted out. It was not the fueler, but it was the fire bottle guy, and all he can do is be there for safety in case there were a fire on the car. He was holding the fire bottle. He helped them move equipment. Penalty.
Well, we talk about the experience of the different teams. Leading Edge certainly learning the ropes here, but I like the big smile on John Marachi's face. Like, no problem, mate. We'll recover from this. We're having a great day. But we just saw that replay of Pat Long. He looked like he got in there way too deep and got all crossed up, Dorsey, taking the side of Alex Tagliani there.
Yeah, they hit quite hard, and of course, that didn't cause the fire, but it might have ruptured or torn off a line or something. We know there was a fire on Alex's car, and I have breathed that fire extinguisher powder before, and it is not a pleasant experience. They put it out right away. These corner crews are really good here.
So the field compressed. We're under, what's this, our third full course caution of the day. This shouldn't be a long one, and we'll get back to racing as quickly as possible. Just over 50 minutes remaining. Fresh drivers in the car, fresh tyres, refueled. We are ready to go. We've had some 6 lead changes, 6 different leaders. Great variety in this GT-only race, the Rolex Sports Car Series. On speed, more in a moment. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. We welcome you back to northwestern Connecticut, to Lime Rock Park. We're under our third full course caution of the day. It was an accident between Patrick Long in the Synergy Porsche and Alex Tagliani in this, the Black Forest Mustang. And it obviously created some fire that needed to be extinguished. Look at this.
This got into turn one, way too much speed. Both cars actually in trouble. They hit one another quite hard. I think it probably loosened either a fuel line or possibly loosened an oil line on the 15 Mustang, because right up ahead here, there's a fire. You see it coming out. I think Tag probably realized it was on fire and drove it straight off into the grass so they could be put out.
Both drivers charging hard, of course, late on the brakes, but it just looked like Pat just had no directional change with the car by locking up the front tires there and clouded Tag pretty hard.
Brian?
Well, bad day for those guys, but a dream-type day for Drew Stavely. You make your first appearance with a 5th at Laguna Seca, and some of the people at home have seen you before, but, hey, setup's a long way away. Tell me what it's like to lead one of these GT races.
Oh, man. First of all, I got to say hi to my mom and dad at home. And thanks to this team. This car is amazing. This Pontiac is on fire. But, you know, to lead it, man, I was so comfortable in this car. Just going for lap times. I wasn't even thinking about leading, you know. So it was a dream come true for sure.
A lot of pressure not to make sure you got involved with the other Pontiac in front of you?
Yeah, I was a bit quicker than him. And, you know, he was trying to run his own race. I can't blame him for that. So once I finally got by him, I was just pretty thrilled because I was running really close to him. And he made a mistake. I could have made it worse, you know. So I'm glad that worked out well.
Obviously, a lot of excitement on the part of Drew Stavely and this entire Racer's Edge Motorsports team. Chris?
Well, Leighton Reese said he could deal with the pressure. We talked about him early on. Great things with the 06, some problems with the 07, but Paul Edwards in good position right now. He had a great stint.
Yeah, thanks. Put some good passes on some of my old nemesises, and you know, I had to put a chop on the 30 car, but I told him I was going to do it before the race. So, and anyway, the car is real competitive. I got, you know, a little fatigued at the end. They told me we were doing a driver change on the first stint, so I started undoing my helmet blower and stuff, and I couldn't get it back on for when it went green. But anyways, I'm roasting out there for an old guy. Anyway, hopefully the Banner Engineering Pontiacs can, we're in a good position. Hopefully we can redeem ourselves and pull through.
Poor guy's out of breath. He kind of sounds like Brian Till running back and forth. But it also sounds like there's potentially a penalty with the Paul Edwards car, so we're going to have to check that out.
Careful down there, Chris.
Well, it'll be a shame if Edwards does get penalized. I was incorrect. He hadn't leapfrogged the two other Pontiacs. He is still in pretty good shape there by making that splash and dash, but he didn't leapfrog the other cars.
While we're under caution, we will take advantage of this. We'll squeeze in another quick commercial break, come back and go racing. Still under caution here at Lime Rock. The Rolex GT Series continues. It's the 6th round of the 2007 series, and Andy Lally is on pit road. This has been a dynamic comeback. He's been working his way through the positions for the majority of the race. It's been a lap down. Andy is doing his utmost to try and claw his way onto the lead lap and be a contender. This, of course, was the race-winning car from a week ago at Laguna Seca. Lally and RJ Valentine.
Problem here on the left front, it looked like was pointed out by the officials possibly, so the mechanic went over there with the wheel gun. And this is a lengthy delay. This is not going well. Looked like they're running the strategy perfectly. Right now, an issue on that left front. Key is, where is the pace car? Where are the leaders?
Here they are. So,
oh, boy. He better really get going here.
You think he's going to beat them out?
Yeah.
So, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, but will he catch up in time? It's a short track, so he should. They're getting the one to go as they come by here, so he's going to have to really get on that Porsche, get it back in line here.
Should be able to do it, though, Dorsey, I would think.
Yeah, it's short enough place. I think you're right.
Typically, you're able to lap about twice as fast as the pace car, maybe 3 times. So I would expect to see by the time we get down on this front straightaway with the field the next time that Andy Lally will be lurking and trying to make his move. He's had a great drive here today, and Kevin Buckler and the TRG group have worked the strategy perfectly.
Well, you talk about a big day for Drew Stavely. What about the young man Tim Lewis Jr., who's in the lead of this motor race? It's been a big day for guys who we have not seen at the front of GT racing in the Rolex series. So they're enjoying something different. Dominic Farnbacher, after missing the most recent round, he's back and sits second. Hensler's third. Pavan is in fourth. Edwards fifth. Long, who got the lucky dog, the wave around, he's in sixth. Then Andy Lally, who we know is racing back to the back of the pack. Will Nonamaker's in contention. Dirk Werner's there in 9th inside the top 10. And Sylvain Tremblay is in 10th in the Speed Source Mazda.
There are some hot shoes in these cars here at the end. Tim Lewis is going to be feeling that pressure. First time here at Lime Rock. One of the concerns for any rookie is learning racetracks quickly. Here we go.
Get ready. The green is about to fly. End of our third caution period. Let's do it at Lime Rock. And it's Tim Lewis Jr. who's feeling the heat at the front of this pack. He's won races in HSR. And his great performance in the historic cars is what got him here to Rolex Series Racing.
Sylvain Tremblay, rare mistake, locks up the Mazda's tire. I don't know if he get it enough to flat sweat or not, though.
Sylvain, forceful, gets by the 22. Allegra Motorsports Porsche. Second is Farnbacher. Sylvain trying to hustle his way back. We're hearing that the 85 and 28
wow, that's huge.
Are being viewed for an improper restart. And the 85 is the second place car of Dominic Farnbacher.
Won't be for long. They're going to give him a stop and go, I'm sure.
Some frantic driving going on in third place. Keep your eye on that Mazda. Sylvain wants to get back on the lead lap. It was handling like an airport luggage trolley before. Let's see what Sylvain can do. Tim Lewis Jr. is doing a good job. Problems up here for the Allegra 26. Carlos de Quesada, and there's another car involved there as well. It was the 30 of Mark Pavan.
No, that's not good. And then you see damage to the left front corner. Nothing that's going to really affect the car as long as the bodywork stays on there.
So the Porsche and the Pontiac came together at Big Bend, turn 1. Let's take a look at what happened, boys.
Well, that's already happened by the time we see that picture. We know there's contact between the two without question.
You got lucky there, Mark, off all the way to the outside. It didn't get the tires too hard, do further damage.
Got to wonder if that's going to draw some sort of a penalty too. And that car's still sitting off the outside.
That's not good.
No, neither is that woman standing there. She's not right of her right mind. I would never stand there.
Well, it's a pretty dangerous position, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not good.
It's a horrible spot.
This is not a change of position here. This is just the 87 and the 70 trying to get back on the lead lap. So right now, Lewis is feeling pressure, but not for position.
87 is Dirk Werner. We ride with him now.
No, I wouldn't let him have his lap back if I could help it.
Update for you from pit road. Andy Lally, and there's Carlos de Quesada, the damage on the Allegra Porsche. Andy Lally in the 66 TRG Porsche received a 1-minute penalty for hitting pit equipment.
And we got our fourth full-course yellow.
Okay, well, this is going to shake things up again, and that was so important for Dominic Farnbacher, for Dirk Werner to try and get that lap back. Right now, he may get the lucky dog anyway.
So this is far from over. Just 38 minutes remaining, but so much can still play out. There's still a lot of positional maneuvering going on at the moment. This one's far from done. Chris.
Well, some interesting things going on down here in pit lane, Lee. It sounds like Paul Edwards is going to get assessed that penalty, 10 seconds, but the team is going to take it after the race. Rather than bring him back to pit lane, 26 seconds coming down pit lane, 10 seconds in the box. Grand Am is letting them take that penalty after the race, so wherever he finishes, he'll actually be 10 seconds behind that. Also, the Pat Long car, it sounds like that's going to happen with that car. Now, we didn't see Pat come in during that last caution, but that's because when he had the contact with Alex Tagliani, he had that tire go down, so he came in then, he has enough fuel, they're fine on tires, but he is also going to be assessed that 10-second penalty after the race.
Now, here's the thing, Calvin. If I were in the race earlier and got a 10-second penalty where I was required to come in to the pits and sit there for 10 seconds, that's 36 seconds. Now they're going to give 10 seconds after the fact.
I'm with you, Dorsey, but think about this. The problem with playing that out in terms of not taking the penalty now, taking it afterwards, if we get a caution with like 2 laps to go, suddenly 10 seconds could be a bunch of cars you're going to lose position on. Right now under caution, I would think that the Pontiac boys are really seriously considering taking the penalty now. Paul has a fast race car. He can get back to the front. You don't know what's going to happen at the end. If you get a late caution, suddenly 10 seconds penalty after the event could drop you from like 1st to 8th.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd rather serve the penalty now, take the 10 seconds, and race my way back to where I am. Like you said, he's got a good race car.
Let me get this straight, though. Are they negotiating to do that penalty after the race, or that has come down from Director of Competition Mark Raffoff?
Seems like that's been allowed, so now they have the option.
It's a very strange position. You know, you don't see that very often. But I tend to agree with you. I'd rather serve my penalty and have the chance to race in front than get caught out at the end on something you can't change.
If it stayed green, definitely take it afterwards. But now it's caution. Dive in. You're going to lose a few positions on the track, but then the penalty is over with.
4 cautions in this race thus far. Brian Till, what do you have?
About a tough position to be in. I just spoke with John Maracchi. Remember, Mark Pavan in the car right now. Drew Stavely in the number 30 earlier had such a great run going. I just talked to him about the problem that Pavan had down in 1, and he said, you know, I just talked to him on the radio. We've got plenty of fuel. The car's all right. Keep it out there. But the car that hit us, we believe, was the 07. Talk about a difficult position for John Maracchi to be in. He's sitting there trying to play the factory and show him that he's worthy of a factory deal, and that's exactly what he's doing. And now he feels like maybe their race got taken away. by one of the other Pontiacs, guys.
That is a tough one. And Pat Long is limping on pit road.
Wow.
Flat left rear.
Wow.
Chris?
Well, I haven't had a chance to check in with the team to see what exactly happened, but you can see a lot of damage on that left rear corner for Pat Long. This car really has had a workout today. It's been a couple incidents, and Pat Long running it back up to the front. But the team hoping that not too much significant damage here. They're going to have to push a little bit of body work out and then put a new tire on there. And remember, he can't serve that 10-second penalty under caution, so they aren't going to be able to do that at this point in time, and they're probably just going to have to let this thing run out and take the 10 seconds when the checker flag comes down.
If I'm not mistaken, that's a second flat on that left rear.
Well, the damage came when he hit tag and he got the initial puncture, and now the bodywork is just rubbing. So it looked like he needed a bigger hammer there to really have any effect. And that may, as a great point there by Chris Neville about taking that 10-second penalty under caution, that may be affecting the decision by the 07 team.
All right, time for another break. We'll make the most of it while we're under yellow so we can come back and give you green flag GT racing. You're watching Sports Cars on Speed. If you've just joined us, this is what you have missed. Wolf Hensler, Nick Ham on the front row, old sparring partners. They got off to a nice clean start. Nick Ham really had his hands full with the Speed Source Mazda, and Kelly Collins was able to capitalize. He enjoyed some time out in front. There was a crash involving Mark Greenberg, Nathan Schwartzbar, and then check this out, Hal Pruitt in the Matt Connolly Pontiac Slam. That has been the most major incident of the race. The track was littered. There was another scrap in turn one involving 4 cars. It was an action-packed mid-race period. And check this out. Kelly Collins back up front. Nice move. Down into Big Bend. And then Leighton Reese saw his teammate do it. He said, I'd like a shot at that. I'll try it in the same corner. Went late on the brakes and executed a nice move. Kelly Collins, however, whilst out in front, experienced a puncture due to that debris at turn 1 at Big Bend, and he was not happy. That put the car into a difficult position. And newcomer, the revelation of the Rolex Sports Car Series, Drew Stavely for Racers Edge Motorsport, went through on the inside and took the lead of the race away from fellow Pontiac driver Leighton Reese. Tremendous performance from that young man. And then just moments ago, Carlos De Quesada and Mark Pavan in that 30 Pontiac GXPR were involved in a bit of a skirmish at turn 1, and that brings you up to date. We are under our 4th full course caution, and hopefully, shortly, fingers crossed, we will go back to green flag racing. But for now, here's Chris.
Boys in second place, Lee Keane, Dominic Farnbacher. You guys have yet to win this year. Do you think you can do it today against the Pontiac?
I think the Shrewsbury Cruz Porsche has a pretty good chance today. It's really funny how it works, because the car is always awesome the past couple of races, but we always have bad luck. And today the car is not so good. We struggled with it the whole weekend, and we had some luck, and now we're in second, so it's pretty cool.
We got a bunch of guys up front looking for that first win of the year.
And that's been the way it has been in 2007, as these guys have got a great vantage point. 5 different teams have enjoyed victories so far in 2007. Allegra Motorsports kicked it off at the Rolex 24. They won. Then the Speed Source boys doubled up at Mexico City and Homestead. At VIR, it was Dirk Werner and Bryce Miller who did it for Farnbacher Lowles. And then at the most recent round, it was a hometown win for Kevin Buckler's TRG group with Andy Lally and RJ Valentine, who was very quick to come up the other day and say, hey, by the way, it wasn't my first Rolex victory. I've had 4. And I said, yeah, but how many decades ago were the previous 3? And he had a good giggle. He was thrilled.
He's a great guy.
They had a bit of a mention in USA Today the other day in an advertising piece for Porsche, and they were delighted. Meanwhile, his teammate Andy Lally is in 11th position at the moment in 66. Trying to force his way forward.
Porsches that are right in front of you are P3 and P2. And then, I don't know, there's a few cars before Tim, so.
I wonder if Paul Edwards is aware of this 10-second penalty. And just to clarify, we were discussing whether they'd take the option of taking this penalty. Now, Dorsey, of course, they can't take a penalty under caution, so kind of went down the wrong street with that one.
Yeah, all the penalties that are assessed have got to be under green.
Dorse, from a driver's point of view, would you want to be told now at this stage of the race, or just find out about it later?
No, I'd want to be told now because it gives me the option to do something on the racetrack that I wouldn't have otherwise maybe have done.
Chris.
Lee, just check back in with Leighton Reese to see if he's trying to give any coaching to Tim Lewis on these restarts, because, you know, Leighton's got a lot of years doing it, and Tim's a little bit green, but he said, you know, Tim being very casual in the car right now, just feeling that if he can keep it out front for at least 5 laps, that should really be the point where the Pontiac can start pulling away from the Porsche. So he's just telling Tim, keep it cool, keep it out front, and that car will come in about 5 laps.
He actually did a good job on the last restart. You know, he got away pretty cleanly, and it looked like things were working to his favor, and then all of a sudden that caution came out.
Hey guys, you keep asking each other questions about this 10-second penalties and whether you would rather take it now or later, and you keep talking about from the team standpoint, but what about the other teams down here? If I'm racing against you, I want you to serve that penalty now, because we've seen all this contact and the mumbo-jumbo going on the racetrack. I don't want to potentially get into an incident with somebody that technically isn't there. They're 10 seconds behind me, so I would think the other competitors would be saying, if they got a penalty coming, get it done now and get them out of the way, and that just removes one more target.
I agree with you, Brian. I think it's a little bit kind of strange in a way that you have an option as to when to take a penalty. There's a lot of time left in this race for Paul Edwards to take that penalty and try and recover from it, so you're not killing his race, so to speak. I mean, some of these penalties, I mean, they're just drawing a very hard line in the sand. They're not going to accept any infractions whatsoever, which is cool, but I'm not quite understanding why they have an option when they take it.
The reason why we were under this 4th full course yellow is this. Turn 1, Mark Pavan and the 26 of Carlos de Quesada in the Porsche, and they needed to help Carlos because there was heavy damage on the right front of that car. So things have been cleaned up, and I believe we are getting close. It should be just one more lap under yellow this time by, and then we'll go back racing with just under half an hour remaining here at Lime Rock Park. The big story point at the top of the show, folks, was can this be Pontiac's day? There's been a lot of talk about these beautiful Pontiac GXPRs, and yes, Tani Miller says one more to go. Guys, one more and we will go back to racing. Well, we'll find out in less than half an hour if it is Pontiac's day. Here's Tim Lewis, very intelligent young man. Spent a little bit of time with him this weekend. Graduated university with a business degree. Helps his father with commercial real estate. Was quite a celebrated sportsman at college as well, in a variety of disciplines, in basketball and cycling, and now he's turned his hand very effectively to motor racing.
Just made an adjustment right there to his sway bar. He's doing it again right now as we speak. What he's probably doing is loosening the front of the car to make it get some grip, Calvin, on this restart.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. You just got to try and figure out which end of the car is not going to pick up grip first, make some adjustments there in the cockpit, and then dial it back out. Pickup will certainly be an issue. The tires are hot. The little marbles at the edge of the racetrack will be picked up under caution. Here we go.
There's another angle of the Turn 1 incident. Look up ahead on the left. The white and light blue car is Carlos de Quesada. Mark Pavan in the red car. It's 3 into 1. It doesn't go.
Wow.
And it's Paul Edwards who was involved in that.
Yes, it was indeed. Paul Edwards who got into Pavan, who then in turn got into de Quesada.
That's what the boys on pit road were talking about earlier. It was indeed a fellow Pontiac who took out the 30. Let's go back to racing, though. Let's do it. Let's hope we get green flag racing all the way to the end. Who's going to win this one at Lime Rock Park? Sylvain Tremblay, very aggressive to try and get back on the lead lap. He's the second car in line, trying to get by Tim Lewis Jr.
He has to be aggressive. He has to make that move as early as he can, but we've seen that Mazda struggle in the hands of Nick Ham early in the run.
Remember, that thing does not have any torque at all. It makes all of its power up on the top end. So he falls vulnerable to those restarts if he's not very aggressive.
Look at Wolf Hensler. He's being aggressive. You betcha. He was trying to put a move on Dominic Farnbacher there. They're all sorting themselves out. And here comes Paul Edwards through past Jean-Francois Dumoulin.
We're going to see some action now with Edwards and Hensler with two very fast race cars trying to get to that leader.
It's on. The gloves are off now. Final 25 minutes. Still a lot of racing to come. And there's people with a variety of agendas out there. Are we going to get another another different winner in the Rolex GT Series. Highly likely.
Well, we're hearing this is not going to go well at all. That the 07, Paul Edwards, is going to get a penalty for avoidable contact going into turn 1. We just saw the replay. They're going to pull him in on a stop and go, and he's not going to be happy.
We're also hearing that 10-second penalty that we've been discussing for about the last 30 minutes may not be an issue at all. So a little bit of confusion down there on pit lane right now. Chris?
Cal, I'm as confused as you are, but what I'm getting down here on pit lane, the team thinks they have a 10-second penalty because a crew member did not have eye protection on. Paul Edwards just got a drive-through penalty for contact on the racetrack.
Here he comes, Chris, too. He's coming in.
Yep, and officials on pit lane are saying that he is going to get that 10-second penalty at the end of the race. However, race control is saying that he isn't. So we have no idea what's going on down here.
Shall we flip a coin? So there we go. Edwards serves that drive-through for contact in turn 1, and his task now becomes increasingly difficult. There's a great scrap going on for second, though, between Dominic Farnbacher and Wolf Hensler. Two Porsche drivers fighting over that second spot. Here it is right here.
Paul Edwards needs a yellow for this to come to him, I believe. It's just so short amount of time left.
Well, we talked about it, 26 seconds to pull the car down pit lane. By that we mean that's the difference in time from staying out to driving down the pit lane at 45 miles an hour.
And that's roughly a half a lap, Cal.
It's a big chunk here at Lime Rock, that is for sure.
Let's give a big pat on the back, too, to the Team Salem Corvette of Will Nonamaker. That car is in the top 5, and again proving that this circuit is kind to the muscle cars. Pontiac leading. Nonamaker is in 5th place. And that would be a season best if Will can keep the Team Salem machine right there. Last time we saw Dominic Farnbacher was at VIR, and he was beating himself up after he ran off the track. It caused damage to the front end of the car. It ripped the radiator out. And I spoke to Greg Lowell, the team principal, this morning, and he said, you know what, it wasn't quite as you saw it. Hensler on the inside. Does he go all the way at West Bend? No. And he said there's some dirt flicked up on the circuit, just like that, on the previous corner. And that,
whoa, that was tight. Farnbacher loose in the dirt. Hensler tried to get it to the inside. Farnbacher closes the door.
He's feeling the pressure, isn't he? He's feeling the pressure from Wolf.
That's 2 mistakes in 1 lap that he just got away with.
Remember, these two boys are teammates over in the American Le Mans Series with Tafel Racing, not in the same car, but run together underneath the same tent, so they know each other well.
And you know that a young German driver like Dominic Farnbacher has looked up to Wolf Hensler for many years. He is a super Porsche driver, Hensler, so this is a big feather in Dominic Farnbacher's cap. Chris?
Well, it looks like the 85 car is going to get another penalty here, and this is totally confusing down here, guys. The team was just told that they're going to get a penalty, probably have to come back to pit lane because of a jump start 2 restarts ago.
Oh.
They're just hearing about this now, and they're completely blown away because they would have served it before and then had that last caution to try and catch back up, but they're just hearing about this now.
And that was Greg Lowles there negotiating with the race official Lee Keane, justifying his standpoint. And there's lots of head shaking and head scratching going on down there.
I totally agree that that's totally unfair to assess a penalty that's this late in the race. There's no time to recover from such a penalty when it's been given like this. What have they been doing, talking about it for 2 hours or something?
I know, there really needs to be a limit on how far after an infraction you can make that call, it seems to me, within a series. But look at Hensler now, slides it to the inside. Door is closed once again. The problem for these guys is they got lap cars right in front of them. Tim Lewis is streaking away.
Lewis now enjoys almost a 4-second lead with just 21 minutes remaining. They crest the uphill again, get slightly airborne. This is good hard racing. It's the Stevenson Corvette in there with Dominic Cicero behind the wheel, and while he is a lapped car, he's still in the top 10.
This isn't over by any means. I've never seen an argument won with an official yet, though, Calvin.
No. Normally win those ones, but this is critical for these boys, Hensler and Farnbacher. Farnbacher may not be aware yet that there may be a penalty.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're going to try and clarify that situation first. But Hensler knows he has a fast car. He's been on the pole 2 years in a row. Last year it was taken away from him, but he's had a fast car, and he wants a better result than a podium finish.
And look who's coming. The green mirrors of Dirk Werner is in the background. He is trying to work his way up onto this tail. Is that Andy Lally there in the 66? Andy is not on the lead lap. He is in 11th position. We ride with Dirk Werner. Let's have a listen. Smooth and fast and composed. Someone who may not be so composed is Greg Lowles. Chris?
Well, still a lot of questions going on down here. The team lobbying hard to try and get that penalty at the end of the race, but officials now saying you've got to come in. We did tell you. However, the team is saying we knew nothing about it.
How does that happen? How does that happen?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what they will do if he doesn't come in. The black flag, of course, is a demand to come in. They will stop scoring him completely soon.
Is Tremblay in trouble? Is Sylvain Tremblay in trouble? Keeping an eye on that Mazda because the Porsches have just got by him. Dirk Werner's lining up for a shot now as well.
I think Calvin hit that nail on the head hours ago. The setup that's just been missed on the Mazda, they just don't have the grip.
Farnbacher in. This was the second placed car. Serving the stop and go.
I don't know why he shut it off there, Cal.
No, there may have been some miscommunication there in terms of how long the penalty was going to be. Also, remember, over in the American Le Mans Series, you have to shut the car off, so...
That's probably exactly what went on there. He's used to running an American Le Mans where it's a rule to shut the engine off.
So that elevates this man here, the pole man, Wolf Hensler, to second place. He's got Andy Lally hot on his heels, but Andy is, of course, still trying to get a lap back.
And that's good for Tim Lewis that he's trying to get that lap back because it'll distract Wolf Hensler to some degree and slow him up.
Tim Lewis is almost the length of the front straight ahead, 7.7 seconds.
Beautiful job by Tim this afternoon. We talk about the inexperience factor, but boy, he's making it happen right now. But 17 minutes and 42 seconds. They're going to be a long 17 minutes for Tim Lewis.
I'd rather have that cushion, though, like that than have him breathing down my neck if I had a choice.
This is the race leader. And it's smooth sailing at the moment. Can he hang on for his first Rolex Series win in the Banner Pontiac? We'll find out. You're watching Sports Cars on Speed. This is the Rolex Sports Car Series, a GT-only race here at Lime Rock Park for round 6. And this is the race leader, Tim Lewis Jr. from Florida. And he boasts an 8.2 second lead over this man here, Wolf Hensler, who's being pushed forward by Andy Lally. Normally, Andy would like to be racing for the lead just like he did last week. However, things haven't quite gone TRG's way today.
It looked like they had a good strategy going, but that pit stop just went awry. Cost him.
He had to serve a penalty for hitting some pit equipment, and then that took him out of the hunt. It looked like the gamble was paying off there at one point in time, and now he and Hensler are still having fun out on track.
Happens so often with these pit stops, Dorsey, when it's a normal routine stop, when they had that issue with the left front. I think they got them out of sync, and he was probably sent too early. Something was in the way.
And it's a rule. If you hit anything on the pit stop, whether it be your tire that just came off, which was the case here, or whatever, you get that big penalty, a 1-minute penalty.
Should make note too that this would be Tafel Racing's best result of the 07 season in the Rolex Series. They have not yet stood on the podium. So Wolf Hensler and Eric Lux could experience that today, all going well in the next 15 minutes.
A shout out to Tony Dow, who's the technical director for Tafel Racing. We understand Tony's a little bit under the weather. They're at the meat of their season right now, so he's opted not to be here this weekend, but it really shows what a great organization Tony's put together, that they're able to run 2 different teams, 2 different series, and run at the front all the time.
We're on board with Paul Edwards. It's the 5th place car. And he's got a first-class seat. Oh, Pavan's gone! Mark Pavan has gone in the Racer's Edge Pontiac.
Good save he was right there. Just had too much, turned too early up on the top of the uphill. The car did not stick. He's lucky he did not get into the wall over there. That's a bad place to go.
It's been an eventful race for Mark since taking over from Drew Stavely. And it's been a real race of attrition. Gone are Carlos De Quesada, Alex Tagliani, Emil Asentato, Mark Greenberg, Hal Pruitt, and Nathan Schwartzbar.
Might have a right rear going down in that car, I'm not sure.
Replay of Pavan. Watch the red Pontiac.
This gets her in there a little too deep, I think, Cal, and doesn't make it to the inside of the racetrack as much. See how rough that corner is?
He's just out in the grey, never really had the car pointing in the right direction, and you're just kind of a guided missile at that point. And did a great job of really...
Well, you saw it right there. Once he got past that little gray area, it was gone.
It's an ugly zone to be in. I'll tell you right now, Paul Edwards is running some really quick lap times. Just got into some traffic, but before that he had about half second on the leaders on the previous lap and still holds down 4th position. So he is not out of this thing yet. As you talked about earlier, Dorsey, a yellow flag will definitely help him out today.
Yeah, that put him right back in the hunt, and I think he'd be the guy to beat if that were the case, but he needs a little help with not much time left in this race.
8.5 seconds, Tim Lewis, here he is, leads over Wolf Hensler. And it could work into a situation where time is on Tim's side. Because before too long, Hensler is going to have to step it up big time to take this lead away.
Well, he's driving a beautiful line around the racetrack. There's no pressure from behind. There's no one up in front of him, so he can click off some real good laps right now.
And that really helps, particularly when you've not been in this position before, Dorsey. I mean, he's just not having to defend. He's not feeling the pressure. He's not really got them in their mirrors yet, other than on the front straightaway. So he can just focus on his line, hitting his marks, as they like to say, and just clicking away, trying to run down this race here and just put together some good lap times.
And we're seeing Wolf Hensler starting to lock up tires occasionally, which means he's pushing it right to the ragged edge there.
Here's the 42 of Will Nonamaker, the team Salem Corvette. Superb performance. It'll be this car, this team's best result of the 2007 season. At best is something like 19th place. So this is an outstanding performance to be in the top 10. More to the point, to be 6th for the Nonamaker family. Great stuff.
And one of the things they've really been working on with these cars is getting the tires to last a little bit longer. They've really been using the tires in the early races this year. They don't have the budget to go testing, so they're really doing their testing on race weekends, but really feel they're starting to get to the bottom of the issues. They're starting to make the car more balanced and stronger at the end.
Joe Salem qualified and started the car, and Will Nonamaker will take it to the end. They're a foundation team in the Rolex Sports Car Series, and Coney Challenge, the Nonamaker family from Ohio, have been around for years, and this will be a really inspiring run for them. Dominic Farnbacher there on screen trying to make his way back. So too Pat Long. Not only has it been a race of attrition, it's been a race of penalties and mistakes and crashes.
Very bizarre race with all these penalties, and just it kind of breaks the whole thing up. Some of them very hard to explain by us.
One thing I don't understand with the 81 machine is when we saw that caution period, everyone was in their fuel window, and we saw the leaders come to pit lane. He did, and then he got involved with Tagliani, so not sure why the call was made to keep him out in the first place.
Back up front with Tim Lewis in the Banner Racing Pontiac, and he maintains his lead at 8.5 seconds.
Well, once again, like you talked about, Cal, it's no pressure whatsoever. There's nobody in front of him holding him up. There's nobody really on his tailgate that he has to look in the rearview mirror and defend against.
What it makes a difference is in traffic, Dorsey, you have a little bit more time to think. You're having to make that instant decision. You can think about it, be a bit more conservative, not take any chances.
I mean, in essence, with an 8-second lead and you've got about 11 minutes to go in the race, you would have to make a mistake before those guys could catch you. So, I mean, once you've got yourself in that mindset, it's just running off laps.
The other thing is Hensler is not really making the charge they expect, and I think it comes down to tire wear once again. They took that last pit stop awfully early. We talked about it at the time. What sort of shape would his tires be in for a charge at the end? He doesn't seem to have a lot right now, but there's still 10 minutes to go.
Check this out. Dirk Ferner, he's got the lapped car of Andy Lally in front of him, and then it's Wolf Hensler. He just wants Andy out of the way so he can have a shot at Hensler, but Andy Lally is not going to give way to anybody.
Well, he's as fast as anybody else in this race is right now. He'd like to get his lap back, and you never know what's going to happen in the last 10 minutes.
He's in a top 10 position, Andy Lally, too, and that win at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca really helped he and RJ Valentine. They're 6th in the championship points. Andy, a two-time GT champion. He also won an SRP2 prototype championship. And these three are stuck together. Can't really see it changing for some time yet. Pavan, although running off, has still been able to maintain his top 5 position. But isn't it interesting when you think about the first Pontiac win, and if indeed Tim Lewis stays there, and in no disrespect to Tim or to Leighton Reese, you would not have picked that. You would have said that it would have been the A-list lineup of Kelly Collins and Paul Edwards. Brian?
Guys, a lot of people cheering for Andy Lally down here. You were just talking about it. A big group of them down at the very beginning of pit lane. They're wearing blue uniforms that say Taffel Racing on them. Because right now, Andy Lally is the meat in the sandwich, and they're glad to see him there because they're saying if Dirk Werner gets past him, then they may have big problems. They're hoping those tires, they're going to stay with him until the end of the race, Chris.
Brian, still trying to work out a lot of these infractions in pit lane. Just check back in with Farnbacher Lowles, and they said that they were never told that they had to come in because of a mishap on a restart. So they will be filing a protest at the end. But since they did come in and serve that penalty, really a protest is, I can't imagine it's really going to get you anything because you're going to have your finishing position on the racetrack and they can't move you up from there.
A suitable adjective to describe this race is messy. That's for sure. It's not messy for this guy. Tim Lewis is cruising. Out in front, 8.5 seconds to the good. We're back for the closing stages of round 6 of the GT race in the Rolex series. This is your race leader, Tim Lewis Jr. of Florida in the Banner Racing Pontiac. Best result for this car was 4th at the season opening Rolex 24 at Daytona. Well, they're not only going to get on the podium in 7.5 minutes' time, they could very well strike up Pontiac's first win of the 07 season. This is 2nd place Wolf Hensler. 11th place Andy Lally, endeavouring to get back on the lead lap, even if it is only 7.5 minutes to go. And then 3rd place Dirk Werner, who will take more championship points out of Sylvain Tremblay's Speed Source Mazda team if he stays where he is.
Expected Dirk Werner to maybe make a bit more of a charge here. Seems like the Porsches, Dorsey, just don't seem to quite have the ultimate pace here today to really make the sort of moves we would expect.
Now they really don't, because you got 3 of the best Porsche drivers. Here's a move right now. Andy Lally's going to be passed.
Chris?
Well, guys, I think this kind of comes back to what Leighton Reese was saying is, you know, Tim, if you can get out there and run 5-6 laps, you're going to start pulling away because that's the point in time when the Pontiac starts pulling away from the Porsches. You know, talking to Leighton, it's pretty amazing, this young rookie. I think we all thought that it would be Kelly Collins, Paul Edwards getting the first win for the GXPR. But Leighton said, you know, he does have a lot of time in race cars. It's just all been in historic cars, so nobody has really seen him. So this is the first time he's really in the limelight in front of the cameras. And boy, he's just not missing a beat.
And Wolf Hensler is suddenly exposed with Andy Lally out of the way. Here comes Dirk Werner, and Paul Edwards is in the background as well. It is on with the last 6 minutes to go. The podium has not yet been determined.
Paul Edwards is flying. He has had about a half a second advantage over those Porsches up in front of him. Does he have enough time to make it happen and get on the podium?
He and Andy Lally were teammates at TRG last year. Will Andy do him any favours? And Werner on the inside of Hensler has not wasted any time and immediately storms his way into 2nd place.
And that's what Paul Edwards needs, those 2 guys to do battle, because it's bringing him right up in there.
This is big. This has championship implications because the Speed Source Mazda is back in 11th place. This is a big day for Dirk Werner and Farnbacher Lowles.
Just as we were expecting him to make some moves and saying maybe he doesn't have the car, boy, the fire has been lit underneath Dirk Werner.
Replay of the move. Inside at Big Bend.
Very nicely, cleanly done. Saw how he held out to the very last minute and then popped in there so it couldn't be defended against.
Credit to Wolf too, though. He gave him some racing room. That was good, clean, professional driving.
Good hard racing. Here he comes, taking the draft. Wolf sees him jinxed in the middle of the road, takes him in deep, pinches him a little bit, but gives him racing room. That is the key. Dirk uses the curve on the inside, and then that's Dominic Cicero, who's having a great run here in the Corvette, really not giving up anything to these front runners, even though he's a lap down to the leader.
And to show you how much Werner stepped it up, maybe there was a bit of traffic for Lewis, but that lead has dropped by 1 full second. More on Werner. Chris?
Well, what he was doing is he was just waiting to get inside those last 10 laps. He was worried if he pulled the trigger too soon, he was not going to be able to have some rear tires for the last couple laps, but he waited. Last 10 laps came around, and he really pulled the trigger. Brian?
Well, guys, now Wolf Hensler is going to be under attack by Paul Edwards in the 07. I just saw Andy Lally do something he hasn't done for the last 15 minutes. Remember, he was embroiled in that battle between Dirk Werner and Wolf Hensler. But when he got shuffled back, as he came through the downhill that time, he pointed the Pontiac by. And now that 07 car will be closing right up on the back of the Porsche.
So that answered my question of whether Andy would make life easier for Paul Edwards. The answer is yes, and now he's got a shot at it. Final 3 3/4 minutes. The lead now down to 7 seconds. There's plenty of traffic.
You have to think about that drive-through penalty that Paul Edwards had to serve. That has cost him dearly. Yes, he may get back on the podium, but it could have been a Pontiac 1-2 or even the win for him.
And look at the point swing. As of right now, Dirk Werner would be tied for the lead of the championship with Nick Ham and Sylvain Tremblay. That is huge.
Who would have believed that that little Mars would be running down in 11th position as we get close to the finish here today?
And I think that is all due to setup that we talked about too, Calvin. That car just did not have the grip here that it needed.
This has been an amazing performance. On board with Paul Edwards, this is Wolf Hensler you're looking at. The fight for third. You got to say that Edwards has got the momentum.
He has the speed right now, but you know, he'll have used his car up a little bit to get to this point, but I think Wolf's car has certainly struggled over the longer runs here today, so you'd have to say advantages with Edwards with probably about 3 or 4 laps to go.
You know, it's not like Wolf's car just loses the rear tires. It looks like it loses total grip as it runs long time.
Got to time it, though. Car's up ahead of Wolf.
Not going to have many laps left to do it in, I can tell you that much.
The Stevenson Corvette of Dominic Cicero is one of those cars up ahead.
Oh, they're side by side. That could affect Hensler as well.
Good run. Paul Edwards out of the diving turn. Is he close enough? No, not this time. They need to get past Cicero down in turn 1.
And they won't this lap.
And with 2 minutes remaining and 3 laps remaining, Tim Lewis has stabilized at 7.3 seconds the lead margin.
Werner jumped into second place, but he ran exactly the same lap time as the leader, Tim Lewis, so the gap did not change on that lap.
No, I think Lewis has got it in the bag. He's just cruising it off. This is a race here, though. This is the podium.
Fastest lap on that last one was run by the 30 machine, Mark Pavane, who's had a very busy day, but still run a very fast race car underneath him, currently in 5th. Here comes Edwards.
They would dearly love to have both Banner Pontiacs on the podium. Final 2 laps. Pontiac won the last race of the 2006 season at Miller Motorsports Park with Andy Lally and Mark Bunting. And their wait has been somewhat prolonged. They've been frustrated. They wanted to win earlier this year. Well, the time has come. 1.5 laps to go before Tim Lewis Jr. becomes a first-time Rolex Sports Car Series winner.
Dominic Cicero up ahead. Is he going to be a factor in this final podium position by getting in the way of this race right now? Right now is a little bit of a gap, but look at the leader. What a great job this young man has done today.
1 to go for the 24-year-old from Florida.
And look at the clock. If he slowed up just a little bit, he could have been done.
1 more to go for Tim Lewis and Leighton Reese, the team principal at Banner Racing. And this is not over yet either. 1 more to go.
You know Paul Edwards is going to be hungry, and I think Dorsey, knowing that the other sister machine is out front, will make even more incentive for Paul Edwards to get that final podium spot.
Where's he going to go for it, Dors?
He doesn't have many chances. It looks like the push is actually pretty good up through this area. He gets off the corner better. You see, Paul's able to get into the corner with more speed, but Wolf gets to the throttle first.
As they take the uphill, Tim Lewis Jr. at this stage would be on the downhill. He is. He comes through the final turn, and it marks Pontiac's first victory for the GXPR. And it's Leighton Reese and Tim Lewis who are victorious at Lime Rock Park. How about that? Super performance for the 06. Dirk Werner ties for the championship lead and claims second, and Wolf Hensler in the drag race to the line beats Paul Edwards there for the final step on the podium. But what about the moment for this young man?
That is fantastic. There's nothing like the first one, Dorsey.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And out of nowhere comes Tim Lewis Jr. with the big win.
His folks down in Florida will be thrilled. He works very closely with his father. What a moment. What a moment for those guys. It's a multi-tiered effort from GM to Pratt & Miller to Leighton Reese's Banner Group. And finally, the teamwork has paid off. Well done. Welcome back, folks. We are wrapping up the Lime Rock GT Classic Round 6 of the Rolex GT Series, and Chris Neville standing by with our 5th different winning combination from 6 races.
GTO was so dominant here last year, and the GXPR finally breaks through, get its first win of the year. Tim, what was it like? You saw that there were problems with the Kelly Collins, Paul Edwards car. You had to take over and try and get that win. What was it like being a rookie?
Oh, man, it was amazing. You know, I'm just so happy to get the first win for Leighton and the team. The crew did an awesome job setting the car up, and really that last half hour seemed like 2 hours in the car, man. I was sweating. It was crazy.
And Leighton, we talked a lot at the end of the broadcast that this was Tim's first win. It's also your first Rolex win as a driver and a team owner.
Oh, man, I was so nervous, the last 4 laps or 10 laps or whatever. I'm so callous to having victory snatched from us in tons of series. But, we just perseverance. We stayed at it for years and years, and little champagne today.
Banner Racing finally breaks through. Brian?
Down at Farnbacher Lowell's, Dirk Werner, Bryce Miller celebrating another podium. This is the 4th podium of the year. Bryce, early in the race, just seemed to be a battle out there. People beating on each other. How wild was it?
Yeah, there was a lot of door-to-door contact, and the few caution periods I think ended up really working towards our favor, and I was able to kind of get my my heartbeat back down, and it was really tough conditions out there, lots of heat, and that was really the biggest thing, is managing body heat. So we feel really good today, though, and Farnbacher Lowell's just gave us such a great car again, and I just gave it everything I had.
Well, you shaved today. After the race win, you told me you guys weren't going to shave on race weekends. Dirk, you didn't. At the end there, how hard was it to manage tires and still have something to do battle with Wolf Hensler with?
Yeah, it was pretty hard. I mean, I saw that Andy was fighting Wolf pretty hard, and so I decided just to hold back a little bit. And when Horst said to me it's only 8 laps to go, I decided now I will take my advantage if I have one. And I could get both in this corner, the first after start-finish. And I said before the race this would be the first corner you can overtake a car who's only a half a second slow. So thanks to the team, they did a great job again, 4th podium in a row. Thank you.
Great job, guys. Great job for this team. Dirk Werner now tied for the championship points lead. Great news for Farnbacher Lowell's, but remember, they're still thinking about Sean McQuaid.
Bryce Miller, Dirk Werner, aren't they proving to be a wonderful combination? Very productive. But the win, it's all about Pontiac. Reese and Lewis, first-time winners in the Rolex Series. And Wolf Hensler and Eric Lux, they get their personal best performance of the 07 season. A lot to take away from today. Boy, it was crash fest. There was controversy. Lots to talk about as we look forward to the next round at Watkins Glen. That's coming up in just 2 weeks' time. A quick break, more as we wrap it up from Lime Rock. Stick around. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. And by Ruby Tuesday, simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. The celebrations continue here at Lime Rock Park. Our post-race review, more from pit lane. Here's Chris.
Wolf, you had the pole here today, and it looked like the car to beat, but you got in on that last stint. You had a little bit more time on your tires. Was it the tires that really held you back?
Yeah, I think so. At the end, I had nothing against Dirk Werner. I was trying to keep Andy Lally behind me, but he was one lap down, but I tried to keep him behind me to have one car between Dirk Werner and me, but Dirk passed him, and when Dirk arrived, I just had nothing against him, and then at the end, the last 5 laps, I tried to keep and save the third place and keep, I think, the 07 Pontiac behind me. Good. That's it.
Well, Tefel Racing was so dominant last year. The question is, when are they going to break through and get that win this year? Brian?
Well, the breakthrough win this weekend came for Banner Racing. Kelly Collins and Paul Edwards. Didn't go to you guys, but the team got it. But, Paul, for you, I mean, you go to the front, you go to the back. You go to the front, you go to the back. What were you thinking with all this? How do you keep your mental focus and keep that drive going forward?
Well, as you see, the Banner team just prepared an awesome car for the whole team. I mean, congrats to Tim. Can't wait to go and talk to him. But, the car was awesome. I mean, it gave us the confidence to make passes in places people were struggling. So it made my job pretty easy. It made me look probably, better than some of these guys just because the car was so good.
Well, the car is definitely good today. The Pontiac's so strong here, Lee.
And that's why they will be celebrating. But take a look at this. Dirk Werner, Nick Ham and Sylvain Tremblay all tied for the lead of this championship. And they have a 9-point advantage over Kelly Collins and Paul Edwards. Gee, it's tightening up nicely, isn't it? And there you see the top 5. Well, Dorsey, we have a 2-week break now. We head to Watkins Glen. Before I get to that with you, I need to congratulate the SunTrust Improve Your Position Award winner. It's Will Nonamaker, Joe Salin, making up 14 positions. Looking forward to the 6 hour?
I am, but I'm not really sure. In 2 weeks, I'll be able to figure out all these penalties and the implications that they give.
It was an important one for Pontiac and for Banner that they won. We've had a Mazda win, we've had Porsche win, we've now had the new Pontiac GXPR win. A lot to talk about going away from Lime Rock Park, and we click it into a different gear in 2 weeks' time. The 6 hours at the famous Watkins Glen. On behalf of the entire Speed team, I'm Lee Diffie. We'll see you in 2 weeks.